few minutes to get people on. We call meeting order, then I read that. Okay. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Housatonic Improvement Committee. Get a roll call vote. Aye, Tasha.
Aye.
Ted? Angela? Daniel? Aye. So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A S18, and the governor's June 16th, 2021 revised order extending the remote participation by all members of any meeting in the public body. This meeting of the Housatonic Improvement Committee will offer remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and parties with the right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner. See instructions at the top of the agenda. Every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. All right. So just like to call this meeting order and start off by thanking everybody for participating in the charrette. And Carrie for all the work gathering, the architects, and the Great Barrington Fire Station for allowing us to use their meeting room. So we have coffee, drinks over here for everybody. We'll be bringing in sandwiches around noon time, and basically we'll just get this thing started, get everybody working. Committee members will be coming and going. We will not be deliberating, but there'll be somebody around if you have a question here or there, or any way we can help. We have some paperwork around that we were using to get to this point that will be available. So without any further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Carrie here.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Bartini, local architect. I think I'm actually going to hand it off to Angela, but just to get you oriented, in front of you and the table, there are some 1/8" scale drawings. We're pretty sure they're 1/8" scale. I tried my best. And then there's some larger 1/4" scale. There's two, one on either end. There's some additional trays, some scales, some sketching utensils, but feel free to take a look at the plans. So we're going to be talking about accessibility. How do we get inside this building? What are the fire code issues? Any opportunity for energy efficiency? Basically taking a building that's had some pretty deferred maintenance for the last decade or so, a couple of decades, I should say. And trying to figure out how to repurpose this building. And nothing is off the board. So, you know, have as much freedom and as much fun as you want within the walls. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't blow out some of the walls, come up with these great additions, but for the most part, how do we reuse this building? Whether it's housing, whether it's markets, whether it's studios, artist space, maker space, I mean, nothing's off the table. So just have some fun, get creative. We do have site plans and other documents that are available. Angela can help you with some of those. She's got it on that computer there. We've got some ability to project it on a larger screen. But for the most part, we're going to pretend that parking's not an issue, okay? And all those other external factors, pretend it's not an issue. This is a perfect world, and we're just going to have some fun with these drawings. If you have suggestions for those items, then certainly we want to hear those ideas. So I would say that's sort of what's happening right now, but I want Angela to sort of speak about how we got to this, how we got to this place, just to give you some context about why we're here today for the charrette.
Okay, thanks, Carrie. So we shared a document with all of you that is called the Housatonic School Adaptive Reuse Design Charrette. And we did outline a couple things that we want to exclude from this particular design exercise. One, we don't want to rip down the building. Two, we do not want it to be full of luxury apartments. So we'd like it to be a mixed use space and include maybe some housing, but not all housing. If anyone would like a copy of this, I brought extra copies. But really, before we start, can we just go around the table and could the architects introduce themselves, please?
Sure. I'm David Whitehill. I'm a partner with Clement Hallsband Architects. I'm in Northampton. Our main office is in Manhattan, and do a lot of work with institutional clients, schools, colleges, churches, things like that.
Bruce Moore, I'm principal at Red House Design here in Great Barrington. Mostly doing residential work right now, but spent about 20 years in New York City doing commercial, institutional, a lot of large format, multi-story high-rise projects.
My name is Robert Harrison. I am an architect and principal with Berkshire Design and Bradley Architects in Pittsfield.
I'm Wendy Brown. I'm an architect in Dalton. I work part-time at Berry Architects and also do on my own high performance homes and energy retrofits.
Great. Carrie, you want to introduce yourself?
Carrie Bartini, partner of Berkshire Designing. Robert is actually my business partner. So happy to be here. I'm also here as an executive board member of Western Mass AIA. So
Okay, great. So I just want to talk about parking for a second because it's probably on people's minds.
yep.
So we decided that we would exclude parking from this discussion just because that's a whole nother study. And the town has done some work to reconfigure parking on that lot. There are also other possibilities, but let's just, not have that bog us down today. Does anybody have any questions or do you need a copy of this?
Would you mind having the committee introduce themselves?
Oh, sure. Of course. Thank you. That's great. So Eric, you go ahead. Co-chair.
I'm Eric Gabriel, Vice Chair of the HIC.
I'm Patrick Barrett. I'm a theater consultant and I live in Housatonic, of course.
I'm Daniel Bialois. I live in Housatonic and I'm a local carpenter.
And my name is Angela Lamonto, and I got involved in this because I've done a lot of historic restoration and I've been a general contractor, and I just think it's fun to help communities improve.
Has anybody done a study of the needs of the community? I mean, we talk about what we would like, but what do we need?
So to get to this point, we read through the town master plan. We read through the comprehensive economic development study, I think it is, that is done by the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission and updated every year. And we looked at the Berkshire Blueprint 2.0, as well as a whole lot of other documents. We went to two websites, I can find them for you if you're interested, that talk about how you can reuse old buildings and have them be sort of fulcrums for a community to improve. So we really did a lot of homework. We looked at the old proposals, we looked at the old RFPs. Committee, what am I forgetting? It's a whole long list of things. But within those documents, especially the SEDS document done by the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, they have outlined what's needed. So we picked up from what they had done because we couldn't do that kind of marketing stuff. Yeah. Does
We
that
also-
answer your question? Yeah.
We also had called in some staples in Housatonic as well, as far as like Muse, Artisan Space, Pulse came in. Both of them are dealing with, they also are in very large spaces, but are filling up fast. Pulse is busting at seams. And Muse is filling their studio spaces as fast as they're making them. So,
Muse is in the country curtains.
yes, yes, sir. Yep.
So maybe some additional background as to why this building became vacated and what's the immediate context. We talked about Pulse and Muse, but I guess give us some more context as to what those are and where they're located for the people that aren't from this area.
Okay,
With our
So-
presentation.
yeah, so that's all in that document, but the Pulse is a world music and dance and movement educational not-for-profit that has they offer 300 classes a year, and they have the whole third floor of one of the old mill buildings. Muse is an artist space, but one of the floors in that building is a furniture maker who owns the old mill. And one of the floors is now maker's space, but no housing. There are other buildings that have office space. There are a few restaurants in Housatonic. What am I forgetting?
There's the whole series of Kelly's Mills, which is has offices. There's a tax company there, furniture makers,
Can you explain, I'm not sure what you're talking about, other buildings?
other buildings in the area meet within walking distance, just to give you a general idea
Okay.
of the surroundings. Yeah,
Okay,
so
what's the relevance? I'm not sure I understand.
just giving you background on
These are just
context.
nearby
Yeah.
institutions, okay.
So, and I think the main thing to keep in mind that we've, is the schoolyard that's right in front of this building that is very popular. And then we have what we call the Hoosie Dome, which is Great Barrington's only community center on the backside of it, which is used all winter long. We're gonna have farmers markets there. We're also Hoosie Hoops that goes on there, which is boys basketball. And there is actually a mentoring project going there, and there's yoga 2 nights a week held in this community center moving forward. So everything's very walkable in Housatonic. We're on the public transit line a block away. So,
Robert, you have a question?
I'm just, excuse me, wondering if you would be good enough just to summarize how you arrived at the decision that you do not want the building to be fully residential, but that it needs to be mixed use.
Most of it was because of the studies that I just talked about, that maker space is really needed in this area. And we like to have something that is more of a traffic, like, we don't want a lot of traffic, but we like something to be a destination. So if there were a little boutique in the building or a small food shop, it would be really great to have that be, in the center of Housatonic. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Well, that's kind of saying like you would like it to be those things, but I think we heard pretty clearly, you don't want it to be market rate housing. Like what about, why not? Other than, I mean, there's a lot of buildings around that could be,
I guess-
coffee shops. But
we specify that we don't want it to be all market rate housing. So, and I think it's for, like what Angela was saying, is we do want a mixed use aspect of it. So just I feel each angle you drive into the town, it's kind of like the marker, and I would rather, when I think of residential, I think of it not as much bustling, not much as far as a commercial aspect to it. So I would like, I'm all for housing in it, but I would also like to see some commercial aspect, some sort of community aspect to tie in with the park and the Hoosie Dome. So.
In a way, Housatonic doesn't really have a defined center. And it kind of needs something in the center to be a node, to be an identity to the town, and it would be a shame to see just another housing building and not have I think that the context of having the park and the Hoosie Dome right next door make a sort of a synergy between those 3 spaces that immediately border. I mean, other than Ramsdale in the which is the library, sorry, a block away, and the post office and fire station. This is kind of more of the center of Housatonic. To me, this needs to have some sort of a community identity.
What's the current occupancy of the other commercial spaces in Housatonic?
I think what he's asking is not what is the occupancy, but what percentage is it?
Like
You get a sense
What's
that
the vacancy?
there's not many vacancies, that there are people
You're trying to
looking for
estimate the
additional
positive way.
space.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's fair to say that the mills, Housatonic is dominated by the mills, has been for 150 years along the river. It's why we're there. And, you know, you can't miss them when you come to Housatonic. And one by one, and they're all owned individually. And they have pretty much been occupied by a variety of different kinds of manufacturing and small manufacturing kinds of options. You know, restaurants are tough. There isn't a whole lot of commercial activity in Housatonic. There's a variety store next to the post office. We have our own fire station. We have a couple of churches, post office. And of course, Berkshire Bakery put us on the map because everybody knows Housatonic from that. And that's, you know, incredibly successful. I'm not sure I answered your question. Housatonic doesn't really have a commercial identity more than it's like a village that has its own sort of support systems.
Do you get a sense that much of the non-residential space in Housatonic is going asking for tenants? Or I think we got a sense from the introduction that it's getting filled up as quickly as it can be created.
So there aren't many storefronts in Housatonic, if that's what you're asking about. When we talk about Berkshire Pulse, the dance movement, international, the place that gives all the classes to children, it's on the third floor of a mill building. So there's a lot of activity in Housatonic, but it's either in the mill buildings or, you know, in houses. So the school is kind of in the middle of all that, and it could be a focal point and a draw, like you know, people will go there for a particular activity and perhaps live there. So we were thinking that that would be, you know, something that would anchor the village and, you know, keep the small town feel of the village at the same time.
I would say also, and maybe this answers the question a little more, Bruce, as far as the commercial space, rental space, apartments, if there's a for sale sign or for rent sign in the window, it's going to get taken up rapidly. There is a building that everybody knows about right next to our post office fire station. It's boarded up. It's a commercial space. That owner has decided to leave it boarded up. It's not because no one wants anything to do with the building. It's for whatever reason, they're not prepared to do anything with it at the present time. There's other market space that has people moving into it. You know, we have extra specialties that's going to open up at the corner market that's going to be open soon. And all the shop space, mill space, if it does go vacant, it fills up pretty quickly. And most of it is word of mouth, to be honest with you, at this point. So I have a handful of residential apartments, and I get 6-7 calls a week, to be honest with you, for people looking for them to be available, which most people, once they move in, it's rare that they move out unless they buy their own place. So
Somebody said, if I heard it correctly earlier, though, there's reticence about adding traffic to the village. Is that accurate or not?
I think it's I wouldn't say, I feel people are, I think it could go both ways. I hear now, you know, now that I'm involved in multiple parts of the town government, I hear a lot of feedback from a lot of people. A lot of people want Housatonic to be a little more vibrant, a little more bustling and busy, you know, a little more active. I remember it when I was growing up, we had Tax, the corner market, and the deli counter. That whole street that we were just on taking a tour always had cars going up and down. You know, that it was a very popular place to be. Aberdale's, people would be sitting in there all day long. You know, I remember it being a lot busier, more bustling growing up. And I don't think the people of Housatonic are necessarily looking for weekend traffic like we have in Great Barrington, but I think they're looking for, you know, I think they're looking for, personally, I think they're looking for a little more business.
And we're talking vehicular traffic, not pedestrian.
Not pedestrian, yeah, yes.
You're saying something that caters more to the needs of the local community, not bringing in outside dollars.
No, I'm saying all the above. And outside.
Well, I think that there are people who come in for a particular reason, whether it be culture, the bakery or something. And there's nothing else to do. They move on. And I think we kind of need to have some type of, to me, a focus and a reason for people to stay there. I think extra specialties, which is moving into the corner market, is going to be great. That's going to have a place where you can go and you can get a tea or coffee or whatnot, and sit and read paper.
So while someone's maybe dropping their child off at dance lessons, they're staying in town and going to extra specialties, or maybe they're going to a shop, as opposed to dropping off and leaving and coming back.
I think there's an opportunity there. People are coming in for a particular reason, but they're not staying. They don't see any reason to stay. People are enchanted by Pleasant, Maine. Everybody that from out of the area.
It's a restaurant.
It's a restaurant, but it looks like a hardware store. It looks like an antique shop.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
Well, so that begs the question too. I know we're not talking about parking for this particular building. We've sort of said, the town's dealing with that, or we're gonna figure it out. But in general, when people come to town, where are they parking?
There are places in park.
Yeah.
So there's no designated like town parking, but there's sort of on the street.
On-street parking, there is that little bit of a parking spot behind, next to the Hoosie Dome and the school, but a lot of on-street parking.
Next to Pulse, back of Greenhouse.
Yeah. So that's what, at the, when we're having the farmer's market this year in the Hoosie Dome, the Brick House Pub has allowed people to park up through there, up and down the streets, like I was saying. I think there's been a lull in activity in Housatonic for a handful of years now. So I think people are hesitant and worried about, but I think if you look in the past, parking wasn't an issue when we had a lot bigger events. The Corpus Christi Church used to hold a bazaar when I was a kid at the Hoosie Dome. And my parent, I grew up on Depot Street, which is about a block away, and cars would be parked from the Hoosie Dome around, down through there, up the streets. And that was a whole weekend long, and it was accommodated.
The Hoosie Dome is the community center that shares the parking.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Got it. It'd be really helpful if we could put a map or site plan or something out.
Yeah, so that's something I asked too. They also have videos, and so videos and the site plan might be helpful. We can
Sounds
get
good.
that on the screen.
And just to round out the sort of the retail component of it, around the corner on Van Dusenville Road, like when Deb Kaufman passed away, has someone taken over that gallery space? Or are some of those open still?
Yeah, no, that's still in, as far as I'm aware of, is still in the Kaufman family. They're deciding. So. Yeah.
I'm gonna see Sarah in a couple of days, so
Yeah.
I'll ask her what her plans are.
I had some questions. I don't know when exactly to ask them or anything, but where do the artists, I mean, it seems like a lot of, the studios and dance, where do they live now? Do they live in the village or do they live other places? Do you know?
As far as Muse goes, I know a handful of artisans that have taken space there, and they live in Great Barrington, Housatonic area, but I can't tell you factually that they're all from the immediate area. So, I do know when we had Pulse in, Bettina was saying that she had families driving in from the tri-state area an hour away to do her courses there and stuff like that. So I imagine, I don't know that people are driving that far for artisan space, but.
So then, the other thing I thought of last night, and I know the park isn't really part of this property, but where exactly does it end? And could there be like a small dog park, or is there a dog park nearby where someone would be, would come to this vicinity for
Good question.
activity?
Patrick has volunteered to get a satellite image up, so he's going to do that. while
See
you
if we
do
can.
that.
Okay.
The other, while they're looking at that, let me just say, the other thing about Housatonic and its relationship to the towns surrounding is it tends to be more about families with young children. Housatonic has traditionally been more affordable to live in than living on the hill in Great Barrington and all the limited spaces there. And we have a very, while Great Barrington seems to age, the average age seems to go up in Great Barrington proper. Housatonic has a lot of young families now. And you see them on the streets, you see them at the playground, which is adjacent right there. And I think that's something that we can factor in today in the mix here.
It sounds like putting aside market rate housing, which, I mean, is out of reach of probably 80% of real locals. Is there an appetite, though, for housing that's more affordable to target that?
Construct has, Construct's a local nonprofit affordable housing. They have a waiting list of
600
Yeah,
families.
600 families that just never goes down. It always stays there. They also provide short-term housing for people in crisis.
I'm sorry, who are you?
Fred Clark. My name is Fred Clark.
Thank you,
I'm a registered architect. I live at Housatonic.
thank you.
I can give you the village overview here on the satellite view. The school building is here. The Housatonic Community Center that we're talking about is here. The Pleasant and Main restaurant is over here, and then this area is the park and playground. The bus stop is on the corner. There's a storefront space here. That's where the tea shop is going to go. Brick House is another restaurant that's across the street and tracks. Berkshire Pulse is in this mill building, and then there are a series of mill buildings here and here. This is where Muse, the makerspace rental units are, and then some other mill buildings over in this area. The river comes through the village right there. Sorry for all the windows blinking up there. So that sort of orients you to what we're talking about. The school, as you can see, is adjacent to the park, and across the street is all residential down the hill.
Thanks. Yeah, sure.
So has Berkshire Housing been approached at all? I'm asking because the town I live in had a school that was vacant for 20 years or so, and Berkshire Housing was willing to develop. The town had a group that did not want affordable housing in their town or in their neighborhood, and it got voted down. And then a couple of years ago, the school got torn down eventually. But if you're saying there is willingness to have affordable housing units in the area, then it may not be as much of a scope, but has Berkshire Housing been contacted?
I'm also the chair of the Great Barrington Affordable Housing Trust, and we have a development of Habitat about half a mile away from the site on 41 North Penn Road, for 20 units of single and duplex owner occupied housing. It's gonna be years. You know, Habitat is coming, and we're doing. There has been talk previously with Berkshire Housing and with Construct about developing this building. Well, lots of people have looked at this building over the years, and all, asbestos has become an issue. There's all sorts of issues. Nobody could ever make the money work for that kind of thing. What to say?
Yeah. Well, that
Nobody's
brings
been
us a
able to
good-
do it through nonprofit grant.
Yeah, there's two good things about this building versus the Damascus one. It looks a lot nice. It's more remarkable, and it's not in a floodplain.
Yeah.
So those two things. are
So that does
nice.
bring up, we know that there's confirmed asbestos and lead in this building. Is that, we do know that for sure, assuming, but.
You can
Yeah.
see it.
We also know that the town had $600,000 that's committed to this building for the envelope of the building, so the roofing, windows, but they haven't wanted to pull the trigger because they want to plant, so this is why we're here today. So, just to give you some context, if somebody put $4 million into the building and the town borrowed the money at 2%, the payment would be around $14,000 a month. So could the rents for that building equal $14,000 a month? In my mind, probably. Would it work at 5 million? Maybe. Would it work at 6 million? Maybe. We need to figure out what goes in it before we ask the town to do an RFP, and that leads us right back to you guys and now with your pencils and your creative thinking.
So getting to that, is there any idea about whether the town wants to RFP to sell it or hold on to it, or it's all open?
It's all open right now.
I guess what I kind of struggle with is there's so many studies in the folder, you know, so many things have been looked at. So to my mind, when I see all that, it's sort of like, well, clearly we come up with a lot of ideas. There's clearly something saying that's not a good idea, that's not a good idea. So I'm not quite sure, like, we could just pick one of the ideas that's already been
Yeah.
figured out.
So
Like, why, what do you need here?
So there was, if you looked at the study from 2000, the proposal from 2010, which was Clark and Green Architects plus the Southern Yorkshire Community Development Corporation.
Right.
It looked like it was really solid. What I've been able to find out is that the town manager at the time took that study and buried it. And it never was considered. So we need to move on from those things and give the town, you know, our commission is to give the town a recommendation. And then they'll issue another RFP, and we have to hope that whatever that RFP calls for, and it'll be based on some of your ideas, somebody will respond. Does that make sense?
I also feel that the times have changed, you know, it started 17 years ago, and I think there's been a lot more investment in I think the economy, investment, people coming in. I think that really changes the scenario from the past.
And the select board is very big. They're really paying attention to this now. It's not gonna get buried. We've been working on it for over a year. So, yeah, I think we all have the sense that the town is gonna do something. And they're willing to, I think they're willing to be, and Eric's a select person, but you know, that $600,000 is sitting there. The town planner has told us there's grant money, if there's a public-private partnership. We just don't really know what's gonna happen because we don't know what the building is gonna be used for.
So as an example, that study that I looked at in, looked legitimate to me, looked like a good study. You know, is there something specific about it? Like, why is that not just, that's the idea? Why? Like, what about it is wrong? Like,
We
can we
can't
be
answer,
specific?
we can't answer that question.
Yeah.
Well, like Eric was just saying, that's a few years old now. I think maybe it's great, but I think we need to look at it in 2021 with 2021 eyes and say, is it still great or have our needs changed? I go back to what are our current needs for this community? Maybe it's not relevant to us anymore. Maybe it is, but I mean, we have to look at it again before we present it again. And I think we're going to have to tweak it for the changes that have happened in the community.
Is there consensus about what the current needs are? Could somebody summarize?
I don't think we're gonna be able to tell you,
Yeah.
you know, what your needs are.
That's kind of,
So if you go to,
Should we just read that?
yeah, so the things that we talk, or we have sort of landed on, affordable housing, maker space and workshops, retail space, office space, a space that could be a childcare facility, some flexible space that could be programmed for an art exhibit, a meeting space, a gathering space for young adults, a classroom, an after-school program, and maybe a suitable food service space for a small restaurant, classes, or a food shop. So that's on pages 2 and 3 of this. And I'll pass that around.
thank you.
And can you just, I'll stick a document and rather than we're here for only a few hours. Can somebody who knows that document to summarize what the program was, not, you know, the whole layout or anything, but what was this proposal saying? Was it mixed use? Was it, you know, specifically something, right? Can somebody summarize just You know, just what were they proposing to put in the building?
It was all housing.
It's all housing.
Yep.
So right there,
Yep.
we've already decided that that's not something we want to consider.
Right.
So it is outdated.
Well, this one, from 2004
Yeah.
has, page 4 has school reuse suggestions, and there's a list here. Is that the one from Clark?
This one here, right, this is like the one.
Hold on. So the proposal I think we're all talking about is the Clark and Green.
So that was housing.
Proposal, yeah, that was all housing. They were gonna buy the building from the town for $100,000. We don't have a copy of it here. It's in.
Well, that's okay. I think just knowing what you
So
said is
it's,
sufficient.
it was all housing, on the third floor. They broke through the roof for the attic and added loft space so that 2 of the apartments were bigger than the rest.
So I think there was actually, because we had a little.
Oh, there
bit
was
of
one little
not-for-profit
corner
town
office,
satellite.
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of maker, so let me show you this here. This is basically the layout of it.
Right, but again, it's really just a program that makes it dead in the water. It's not what you decided you want now. And I understand that. That's fine. That's really all I needed to know.
Yeah, okay. I just, so it wasn't, I guess what I wanted to clarify is it wasn't all affordable housing. There's incubator space planned for the basement, other offices in the basement area. Not-for-profit office space on the first floor, town satellite, and then the rest was affordable housing. They even, there's a very tall attic up there. They even pushed up to add some bedrooms and loft style. We don't necessarily have this one on the digital, but I got a copy here that we can pass around if anybody wanted to browse that.
Okay, so this didn't happen because Clark and Green didn't, or the town
That-
manager didn't want it to happen? or-
You know, there's a few theories going through town, but it seemed like there was a disconnect between at that time, the town manager and the proposal.
Okay.
As I recall, there was discussion about whether the building should be saved or demolished.
Yeah.
And the park included. I will tell you that one of the things, and I'm sure the committee, Eric and Angela can confirm, that one of the things that's hard and fast is we're not going to demolish the building. The community is, of all the decisions that are made, that's the one that's
That has unanimous
it's
support.
unanimous consent. And so you have to ask yourself, why was that so supported? And I think because of I go back to what I said earlier about an identity, centering, a sense of the community. That in this area between the open space. Community center, as Eric said.
I saw there was like $300,000 of CPC money put towards this building, a couple,
600.
600.
It never was.
So it wasn't allocated. It was
Right.
committed but not
It's
spent.
still sitting there waiting to be used.
It was approved at town meeting and everything. It just.
But could they use that money to like fix the leak in the roof, like just to keep the building from falling down? or-
We also, just recently, it got approved to tarp and board the windows up. And that's supposed to be happening. There's just been.
So some budget to keep the building
Yeah.
intact.
As Angela said, the town is hesitant to spend the money until it's confirmed that we won't demolish it. So after this, Charrette, we deliver our report.
Sure.
It includes that information and then they can move forward with the stabilization.
Like if we could wave a magic wand and move the little post office from where it is, like a block away from the school, into the school, then everybody would have to go to the post office in the school every day, right? And that would be such a great thing, but
But then you'd have an empty post office building.
that's okay. That could be used for something else, but, you know, that would be an impossible task at this point, but I imagine a thing like a post office being a draw for people, like
So-
for people to chat with each other.
There are really only 4 of us. And I'm wondering, I mean, do you feel like you have enough information to maybe put our heads together and just start talking about what did we learn? Like what do we know, just looking at this building as architects? And what do we think, you know, based on what we know to this point, seems to make sense in terms of use, right? I mean, there are things that are obvious. We're not putting non-residential on the second floor. I mean, if it's gonna be mixed, right, the residential's gonna be on the second floor, and then the first floor is either gonna be mixed or entirely not residential. I
Unless
mean,
there's some institution out there, charter school or something that would take over the whole building and use it, but I'm not hearing if there's any,
So,
champing at the bit to take it over.
yeah, I'll make one more statement, then at one of our meetings a while ago, the Waldorf High School that's based out of Stockbridge expressed interest in the building. They have since come forward and they can't necessarily afford to rehab the whole building, nor do they need the whole amount of space, but they, and a few different talks I've had, and I actually just showed them the building again last week with an investor type scenario. You know, they've expressed that they would love to be like an anchor tenant on one of the floors, and they could, you know, guarantee X amount of rent. If it could work with whatever goes on, you know, they were hoping maybe make artisan space or something in a few of the others, because it works well with their learning, you know, their school curriculum. So that's it, but you know, those things have been expressed, whether it can happen, you know, but those are the type, they've just expressed interest and they still have, so.
Well, it's a good layout for a school, you know?
Well, I mean, like Bridge had their offices in this building, but they weren't paying any rent when they were doing it. They're now over at Lee. Bridge is a community support dealing with racism and. So I mean, there is that need for that kind of a use, but they didn't want any rent. So they continue rent the time.
I live in I'm in the planning board in Northampton, and we have a lot of old things like this, and we've done different things with them. ServiceNet is local, you know, social services organization that takes over a lot of these. Honestly, it's tricky because they own them and they use them, but they don't have the money to really, it takes a lot of money to keep these buildings more than just standing up. And then 10, 15 years down the road, it's kind of the same issue. They're like, well, we're gonna move into a newer thing, you know.
So
It's tricky when you don't have someone who has the resources.
When Eric was talking about, you know, the school, the question is who would own it? They're paying rent, you know, does the town still want to be a landlord? You know, and I think that that's an early decision that needs to be made, is whether the town wants to continue ownership of this building.
How much of a anchor tenant can they be if they don't even want 7,000 square feet? I mean, it's a small building.
Yeah, let me forget what actually he said he wanted it. I think it was, they're saying they needed 10.
So they would take the entire ground.
They would take a floor, like a whole floor is what they're shooting for.
That would be.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, I come back to the four of us and we're talking about, I mean, in some ways, we talk about all kinds of uses for the ground floor. But the point is, I think that, you know, we can start providing some direction, like, look, it makes no sense to put any residential on the ground floor. I mean, I think we can all say that, but that's information that this group may not already be aware of, that they would like to hear from us, and a consensus of 4 architects who come together for no other reason than to discuss this building. I think based on what we know now, I mean, there are a lot of things that we could bounce back and forth with each other to start providing some general direction. I mean, what floors, if any, need to be handicap accessible? Do we think that no matter what goes in this building, it's gonna have to be sprinkler? I think we can all answer those questions right here at this table. And I think it would be very useful information for the people sitting around. So I don't know, I mean, at some point, I'd kind of like to just jump in and work with the
Yeah,
other.
guess I'd like to look at the other one. We don't need to reinvent the
Sorry,
wheel. So if we all kind of glance at this, and we can see, you know, try to come up with new information, if anything. Does anybody want me to read the list from the 2004 school reuse suggestions? Just in case it jogs any ideas. Teen programs, senior center, art activities such as dance, theater, art lessons, music, artist studio space, childcare center, teen office, consult with the Railroad Street Project, which is for teens, teen-driven sports shop, bike repair, kayaking, skateboard, medical services for elderly, public meeting space, branches of area service groups, special ed, lifelong learning extension courses, and residential as mixed use. So that's from the 2004 study.
I just want to say one thing, whatever, it should have some kind of large scale commercial or industrial kitchen, whether it's collaborative or all the things that you just talked about as a sports space, events. And collaborative, and it should have. a
Yeah,
kitchen
I was
somewhere.
thinking that too, so.
And Fred, I think you talked a little bit about the housing and the families. We're talking 2-3 bedrooms. Single bedroom units don't sound like they're necessarily fit.
You know, we've been working with Habitat. We've never come south of Berkshire, of Pittsfield, so this is where we're excited because they're finally coming down to South Carolina. And 2 bedrooms are the most in demand. They occasionally will have 1 bedroom units that are available for them. But 3 bedrooms can be a little bit more problematic in terms of space and size.
Thanks, that's helpful.
All right, so I'm just gonna throw some stuff out there for reaction. So I think it's clear that the ground floor needs to be handicap accessible. I think it's clear that the second floor probably should be entirely residential. I think it'd be very difficult for it to be mixed. And I think if we limit it to 4 units, which is 1,500 square feet plus or minus a unit, which is pretty big, then we only need one way out, which I think will help the lower level. I think the building clearly needs to be sprinklered. I think if the ground floor is not residential, whatever it is, that things like a commercial kitchen and public restrooms should be in the basement. I think it's a very small building and I hate to gobble up
Yeah.
space for those things, which means then we'll need a 2-stop elevator.
Can you do an affordable development on the second floor that's not with no accessibility?
Yes, you can. There's only 4 units. Yeah,
You'll get the funding for that?
I think so. I've been working with Construct on some projects and they've done much larger projects without providing accessible units. So yes, there are, based on my understanding, there is money available specifically for creating accessible units. And generally speaking, you would only do that if that is part of your target, because you basically break even. So the amount of extra money it costs is covered. So you don't lose money, but you wouldn't do it unless it was part of what you absolutely wanted. And in this case, again, I just think we don't have the space for an elevator up to the second floor. I think that would make it more challenging. I think, you know, again, if it's a 2-stop elevator, we probably can get away with a lift.
Yeah, we just put in a 3-stop elevator on a building. It ran about $65,000 to put in one that was large enough for the 3-person elevator, including somebody in a wheelchair.
Right. And again, I mean, maybe that is something we want to say, because again, a walk-up is a bit challenging, and maybe we do want to.
I would say 20 years from now, if they say, oh, they did that elevator and only services, it doesn't go upstairs, I think I would be cursing us
Yes.
right now.
Good enough.
Now,
So
wouldn't
that-
we still
so
have
see,
to-
that's fine. That's why we have the 4 of us here.
Yeah, and we would still have to ask for a variance, no?
We wouldn't need a variance if we put the
Because it
elevator
wouldn't
in.
be more than 4 units.
Well,
No,
no,
by
I
that
mean.
If you do
mean
put the elevator, you don't need
Yeah,
a
an
variance.
you don't.
Variance to not make it go to the second floor.
We wouldn't need a variance because it's not open to the public, it's residential.
Right, and
But
it's under the
again,
number of.
practically, you know, it does make it it makes it a much nicer project if it's not a walk-up, which I think is what you're pointing out, that if in fact.
I mean, if it's an
elevator is
affordable and there's 600 people on the waiting list, people will take whatever, I guess. Yeah, but I don't like to look at affordable housing as take it or leave it. I mean, it should be something nice enough to put there,
Okay,
you know?
so again, I think so, let's recap what we have for parameters. We have to make the ground floor accessible. There has to be a residential lobby with an elevator. I think that the support spaces for the non-residential ground floor use should be in the basement, which means either the elevator is shared, which I'm not sure we can do, or we have to have yet another lift or elevator 2-stop for the commercial space in the support space.
I think, Robert, I would take exception to the 1,500 square foot for unit second floor, because at the sort of 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom that we're talking about, 1,500 square feet is going to yield something that's way in excess of market value. I'd say we could realistically get between 6 and 8 combination 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom apartments, given this existing layout. So we're doubling basically the market viability of what I would call starter housing as opposed to a 1,500-foot luxury 2-bedroom. That's kind of my gut instinct about it.
So-
These classrooms are about 700 square feet.
Yeah, so you can get a
So we have a
2-bedroom apartment.
module already sort of established.
Right, so then what that means is that we'll need a second way out from
Right.
the second floor. And again, and looking at the layout of the building, I would not want to dedicate both of the main ground floor entries to the residential, right?
Exactly.
One of those should be residential, one of those should be commercial.
But you could do an entrance to the commercial space that's an exit only from the residential space.
And add only a second means of egress.
No, you have 2 stairs. One is the entrance to the residential and the other one is exit only, and you just go into a vestibule that's shared with the commercial
Yeah,
space.
So that serves a second means.
Right, right.
Okay,
You don't need to add a 3rd stair.
got it.
Yeah, and if you did need to add a 3rd stair, there are these weird little sort of locker zones, 2 of which go directly outside on the west side, I guess it is.
Would you break the building envelope with an exterior elevator and what, do you guys have the numbers on that? Or would you just do
I don't think you need to. I think with that huge sort of shared space in the middle, there's plenty of room to gobble up for elevator, for services, for mechanical areas, maybe even to gang some bathrooms back to back in there to serve the central apartments so that we can grow them a little bit and make them not studios, maybe.
It gets more and more expensive the further into the interior you put the elevator, though. You got to get at grade to that elevator.
Well, and again, my question is, the
And you're
being
breaking.
able to share an elevator, commercial and residential is a significant
Problematic.
challenge.
Yeah.
So again, I think we're looking at 2 elevators,
Yeah.
or at least an elevator and a lift. Unless we want to abandon the basement to just storage.
Well, and the challenge too is both of those entrances are a split stairway entrance, so getting an elevator that actually is accessible to the actual floor is part of the challenge.
Exactly.
Could you have a
This one-
different entrance to the, I've never been in the building, so I don't know, but, to the ground level from like the playground side? So you wouldn't, that could be accessible from the outside. without
I'm
stairs?
wondering, you've got these 2 weird little things
This one
here.
has,
Yeah, I'm trying to see how that works.
Like an
elevator.
elevator in one or both.
Because those are much, there's stairs
There's
inside.
stairs, they're not, they're
This is
actually
not quite drawn right,
locker,
is it?
they're locker areas. These are all flat floor locker areas. These little exterior stairs go up to here, but these could be redeveloped as ramps. Get some elevating.
Well, there's plenty of space in the parking lot there to develop some site work to do that
Yeah,
in a nice way, yeah.
and back to the parking thing, I mean, I know we're not supposed to talk about parking, but if we're putting residential in realistically, we got to address parking. I would say devote half of that basement level, which is tall enough, accessible from the downhill side, on the park side, and get some parking in underneath the basement,
In the building?
in the building.
I was thinking either in the building or just outside of it, and you could build over it.
I'd like to take the town at its word. They've got the parking solved, and I would not like to give up footprint. to
I can't
parking.
see that you could have, yeah. It seems like a
Yeah, I
budget.
guess
cost, too.
all the reading that I've done is there's so much pushback on parking, and there is no willingness to put parking anywhere adjacent to
That's
this
not,
building.
that's not the parameters they gave us today.
I'm just saying what I've heard for 10 years. That's all I'm saying.
Well, the town waived parking requirements for one of the commercial mills, I think. I mean, I think
What about for
Show you what the
residential?
town came up with for alternate parking.
they did come up with an alternate parking because it was like 1.5. The zoning basically said 1.5 spaces per dwelling,
unit, right? Yeah.
which is excessive and really not necessary. We are on the bus line at this point, and there is a number of other spaces along. Parking is an issue. It's going to take some dedicated spaces and it's going to take some accessible spaces adjacent to the building. That's a given.
How did Clark and Green get, do they have an
They have an
elevator in their
elevator.
project?
Yeah, they have it, it's that over here.
But how did they get?
Yeah,
So
you can come in at grade there. You can ramp up.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this too.
you can make a hallway ramp. How?
No, you could ramp exterior of the building in the parking lot and get up to,
Get up to
this, either
Oh, okay.
side.
Excellent.
That is good, yeah, because these,
Those were.
So then we can bring the elevator anywhere from the main floor level.
All the way up and down.
So-
yeah, you kind of, the north side seems like the place to be.
This is the, I think this is the west.
That's not north?
I don't know.
Turn around.
What's considered north?
The symmetry.
Is there north avenue?
Yeah, but you kind of have to dedicate it though.
North.
So here's a site.
It seems very hard to get a lot around those dedicated minimums,
Okay, so here's north.
but you can negotiate on how many per unit.
Well, I've got a site plan.
North is to the
Right,
right.
but I'm gonna put them on the list.
So this is
Right.
the west side.
See, there's windows along.
From everything, it sounds like what you want to create here is a parking problem. You want it to be a hub and destination, so you end up with a parking problem. That's a good thing to have. I mean, that's the best case scenario.
There's no windows in here. There's a high basement for the lower
Just
level.
looking north here.
So on this side, there's
North
occupancy
is in
opportunities
this direction.
with, support and boiler rooms and such in the back.
All right, so that's
Here's-
north.
So here's your,
North is,
North is this way.
this is where the street is here.
Okay, so
The
really.
street is
Yeah,
here.
principal's office. Okay, good.
Yeah, so
So-
north is a natural.
The east side is
Okay, there we go.
where the
North
driveway
was
is.
monorail, 'cause it was unclear.
The problem with these symmetrical buildings, you get turned around pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
First, I guess it doesn't really matter, really. But the entrance,
So these are.
okay, these are on the
these
west side.
On
yeah.
the west side,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
That's the parking lot side.
Good,
Those are
all right.
done.
There's your lower
Those are
front.
here.
It seems also with the town, there's some parking for the Housatonic, and if there's some public social, there could be some deal worked out where it's a shared public lot that's between the Housatonic and this, whatever function ends up here.
Yeah,
I think they
I
want to
mean, the
give up
Hoosie
any
Dome is a
parking for
town-owned
that.
building,
Right.
so it's all sort of parking at will, I guess.
And it seems like to me that.
We vote in there, it's our precinct voting too, so. And there's basketball games and such.
It seems from an ownership point of view, since in this mix of affordable housing and social service or some kind of community space, it either needs to be town owned, which I don't know how many, well, I guess the town owns housing units now.
The
town
town owns
manages?
housing units now, yes.
Okay, so
They
that's
have a
not new.
housing authority, they own housing units,
Right.
they're fairly new.
Or there needs to be some kind of very, very flexible and adept nonprofit who manages the whole thing. It's a very complicated thing to manage.
We have a couple that are possible.
So this is the west elevation or west side, this photo? Right, this side with
Yeah,
yes,
that's
That's west.
That's
without
west.
the basement window.
Right. And so that faces the,
That faces the parking lot in the Housatonic. There, I mean, there are a lot of windows in the basement that have been blocked up. They're there.
but it's what they used to call a high basement. you know,
Yeah, it's like the
half
7 or 8
level above.
It's pretty good,
grade.
It's pretty good.
Um,
It's
8 or
and-
9
And they
feet,
had
yeah, you
art
can stand
rooms
up in
and
there.
classroom, they had the cafeteria down there
Right.
and the art room when it was a
Right.
school.
Right.
So it has full height
Yeah.
ceilings.
Just doesn't have, the windows aren't that. I mean, the windows are
The
high.
windows are high. But they
sill height.
give you a sill height of 36 inches or something like
I
that.
think it's higher than that, but
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're high.
So the spot that Clark and Green chose for the elevator is here on the west side.
that's the east.
That's the east side.
Oh, well, wait,
But-
then this
but it-
isn't right then. We need to,
No, that's right.
No, that's right.
Yeah, west of the on the top of the page.
well, not in the plan, that's what I'm saying. is
Oh, their
this-
plan is wrong.
Oh, their plan is wrong.
They
Their plan north is
didn't build it, doesn't matter.
not.
So-
So,
They chose on the
They
the
chose
non-window
poorly.
side.
yeah, so
So-
what I'm saying is they,
We have exterior photos. that we can,
yeah,
Besides this one.
here is where they put it.
Right. But again, I mean, with the idea that we, from what we now know is the west side, that we can have handicap access with a ramp. We can put the elevator anywhere we want.
Yeah.
I think the
So-
big question is where does the public want to access this building? Say the commercial, not the housing side, but if you want it to be a gracious, elegant, nice place to be, where do you want to access this building?
Well, one gable under the other, right? So north or south.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. Why?
Because the building is set up that way with a very gracious entry.
But we just talked about the accessibility being actually from the west side.
But the main entrance doesn't have to be accessible.
Right.
Well,
It's supposed to be.
I'd like it to be.
It's in the code that it has, you know.
If we're gonna make a new accessible entrance, we're gonna spend some money doing it, do it. Let's make that the main entrance. It's the nice thing to do.
Okay,
Unless we send the handicapped people, you go over there, you know?
Well, and it's gotta face
Well-
the accessible parking.
There are those two vestibules too, one on either end. The one that's on the Pleasant Street
there you
side, I
go.
guess it is.
There is,
Can accommodate, if we can accommodate an elevator.
So this is a historic photo. He's throwing
Right.
out the current photo
okay,
here.
yeah.
you know, then you
So,
come in,
uh,
and then
Can you
you
keep just controlling this?
and get an elevator in here before you hit the
Can you
stairs.
bring it around so we see the west and
And maybe
the
there's a
south
way to
side?
get out. I think these are hard to see on this plan, but
Isn't there a scheme where you come at it from the parking and you have a nice entry canopy and you have an accessible entrance and you can go right through the building to the
So
park?
there you go.
You know,
So the Lucy Dome's on the left,
that's your main public entrance.
at the midpoint of the building, you're saying.
Or one of those, you know, pick one or both or whatever.
I don't. It makes sense.
Well, there's no door there. But I guess you could make a door, but I mean,
Well, right, so you would end up blowing away one of the.
yeah, you could lose a classroom and make that a lobby entry space or, you know, it depends on what
Actually,
you're
you could
putting in
make it-
there.
You could make it a volume space. You could actually blow out the floors and have a nice little sense of.
It's pretty high ceilings in there already. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they're
nice.
very high.
But what's cool about that, you come through and you see the windows on the far wall and you'd see to the park beyond. It'd be pretty nice. You get a lot of birds flying into those windows.
and that could work as a flex space for the whole sort of art gallery.
Yeah.
Because these entrances
Farmers market,
into
all this other
stairwells
kind of
are
stuff.
always problematic for flow and
Yeah.
accessibility and just they're not, it's fine for exits. It's great, but in terms of making it feel like a civic space, it's pretty tricky.
So then the idea would be maybe to blow out classrooms 3 and 4, and make that all just an open vestibule and turn the window wall of classroom 3 into an entry.
Or you could make the entrance through the two existing entrances, blow out 3 and then put glass on 4, so you have that some space that you can see through and, you know, it doesn't have to be, I don't know that we have that much like lobby space required, but you could, you could do visual things to, you know, bar light kind of thing.
You got kind of 4 pods, one in each corner that can serve any of these other smaller functions. Maybe one of them becomes a post office.
It kind of seems to me though that like, there's a need for space, but what you want to do is make this a nice enough thing that it's a destination and people want to be there. It's not really about maximizing the square footage that you're renting to these nonprofits, because you're not getting anything for this money anyway. I mean, you're not going to get much revenue out of this thing, no matter what.
Well, some of the occupants they're talking about, though, are not nonprofit. I mean, they're for-profit enterprises. News and Pulse and some of the early guys.
But they're not high revenue paying profit enterprises. They're looking for big, cheap space.
That's why they're in the mills, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right,
They're paying
exactly.
under market for those spaces that are,
How are you going to attract them here with high rents, right?
no, this is gonna be class A space, but it's not gonna be class A rent.
That's right. I think that's a super interesting idea.
So let's talk about this idea of making the ground floor this very generous, entry through classroom 3. Where is the residential? Is the residential entry still one of the 2 stairwells? And how do we get access to an elevator from the residential side?
Well, if each of these,
I thought we were either picking one of these or classroom 4.
I mean, these spaces are about 6 or 7 feet wide. So if we could lodge an elevator for the commercial occupancy, then we already say, this is the one for the residential occupancy, if you need to separate
But you
them.
need to get there. How do you get to that elevator? What residential entry gets you there?
You get a ramp entrance here. You get a ramp entrance here to the commercial elevator, which grabs this space as part of the entry lobby or experience or whatever it is. Then from here, you get up to the second floor where you've got full access of everything up there. If you're a pedestrian entrance and you don't need the elevator, you just come in the proper front door. Here. This becomes the secondary egress in the back over here. These, and we got 1, 2, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 apartments on the second
All
floor.
right, we're getting up trades. I like this.
Yeah.
Should we start
Yeah.
just sketching some ideas and,
So you have one where it's,
Well, one I thought I had that, I guess we should put out, in case it helps, is to possibly open up with a balcony type area from one floor to the other. I don't know if that will work between residential and.
I think that's going to present some problems from the fire.
I don't think it will actually. I think if it's only connecting 2 floors and the building is sprinkler, which I think the presumption is the building will be sprinkler, then you could have an atrium looking down. And certainly, as you said, if that center space is wide enough that you would have room for a hallway, a legal hallway.
And added space for
I put
the
on a
apartments.
drone video here to kind
oh,
of.
great.
So that's, that's a possibility.
So I guess it could either be from the second floor to the first floor, or even first floor to second floor, if we had some way to get light down.
It'd be nice to get from first floor to basement. But
Right,
that's where
that's
the
what-
expanded commercial occupancy is downstairs.
Right, and I
That
guess
would
in
be-
some ways you could do both, you've got light down to a.
You're saying
Just
the
straight
elevator could
down.
be where? In this-
Get one in right here.
Somewhere in here.
Yeah. And then get one in here.
So you'd have a 2 elevator scheme.
Yeah. So this one becomes, which way is north on your drawing? This is north, it's this one, right?
No. This is the west entrance. This is the west entrance
Right,
idea.
right.
There's a drone video playing too. of the building. That helps a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Then maybe, as Wendy's suggesting, there's a,
The entrance on the west side is pretty much a mirror, I think, to the entrance on the east side. As a
You mean
similar
this,
kinda-
I think you mean north and south, but yeah.
except that the grade is.
How
probably
public
far.
is it though? Like, if that was a residential entrance, is that hidden away and dangerous feeling, or is that open? And I didn't
It's
really
just
want that
open to a parking lot.
up here.
Here.
No, this I know. I'm saying this, what's the nature of
Yeah, that's.
that
It's
space?
tucked around the back of it.
And this is like-
It's not. It's
It
definitely
feels
back of house.
egress only probably.
A egress on it. yeah.
Mhm.
It depends on where someone who lives there, where they're parking, if they need parking,
Oh, parking.
you know? I mean, if you say, oh, your parking spot is here, but here's your entrance,
Yeah,
instead of this one, that
Right, but there is one parking back there.
in the back is the narrow
Because the
driveway.
Housatonic Dome is right, yeah, right where your hands are, is where that little narrow driveway. I'm sorry. This corner, right, Pleasant Street
Narrow
is over
here.
here.
Yeah.
That narrow section is about back there.
Right,
So if this is where if this is the primary non-handicap entrance here for housing, one of these, let's say this one, and in this area becomes the commercial occupancy entrance. We got a commercial elevator in this plot up here. We get an elevator in here for the residential occupancy going upstairs. So we got a 2-stop or maybe a 3-stop and only a 2-stop here. Then you're able to walk in off the street here into this space, get up to the residential, or come in the elevator here and get up to the residential. And then all of your commercial sort of entry point is here.
Well, I don't understand why. What's the problem with having an elevator for residential and commercial mixed?
Because just like you have to have a separate lobby for an entrance to apartments, the elevator would have to be controlled, so you would only be
But
able.
you could have a key card access or something.
Correct, so then you've got to figure that out for your friends who are coming. I mean, it
Well,
just
your most
becomes-
friends would use the stairs anyway.
Yeah.
It's really a handicap
It's a handicap
accessibility.
access, yeah.
I don't think you need 2 elevators. I mean,
I would really
East-
like to not have to, like, if we. can,
Eastworks,
if
you ever
it's-
go to Eastworks? I mean, they have I mean, they have some freights and stuff, but basically they have 1 elevator for passengers. That's a much bigger building than this.
Right. Okay, I think
I think for 6 or 8 units, you could figure it out, you know.
that's how you would do it, would be with a key card. But
Yeah.
again, it just becomes.
But it probably gets.
Honestly, these days you'd key card all the access to the residential, you know, it would all be,
That's true.
I mean, it's not expensive to do key cards anymore.
All right. So
I mean,
then,
it's gonna be $100,000 to do another elevator inside the building, and possibly if there's a front and back elevators, you know, because of the weird, you know, who knows. It's just-
well, that was why I was, right.
65 sounds like a deal.
But again, so
There is
how do they- how do they-
opportunity
Huge elevator,
have
but
people
it
get
was
to the
deal.
3rd floor, but not actually be able to get into the apartment space. too.
No, you get into an open lobby space or corridor space.
It's not
Yeah.
great because then, you know, someone who doesn't necessarily belong there could get up there.
Right, that's.
Yeah, but anyone can walk up to your front door in your single family house. It's no different. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we should try for 1 hour,
Okay,
see if we can make it work.
I
all
don't,
right,
this is too small building to have 2 elevators.
I agree. So we've got 1 elevator, we've got residential on the top floor, somewhere, 5, 6, 7, 8 units. We're talking about handicap access, again, being somewhere around the classroom 3 side. And so again, I'm assuming, I don't know, so how does that work in the example you gave where an elevator is both commercial and residential? So it's 1 entry to the elevator, whether it's residential or commercial? It's just 1 lobby?
You'd have to make 1 totally public. One totally public interior circulation space that could, and then you'd have to be able to secure off the commercial spaces from that
Got it.
to make it work.
Yeah, which is why these zones would work really well too, especially if you create an entrance in here in classroom 3.
Mhm.
And that becomes this whole thing becomes your shared
Yeah.
community, commercial space.
The
with-
fact that it is such a nice
Yeah,
broad
it's such a
corridor, I
great
mean, it was clearly
space.
used for classes gathering and stuff. It's a really nice,
It
gracious
lends
hallway.
itself to that beautiful.
A lot of these old schools, you see a little 6 foot, 7 foot
Mhm.
corridor. This is nice.
Yeah, that corridors. That floor is about 18 feet high.
So again, just in terms of concept, you have a lobby with an elevator. And then the lobby, the commercial space. And the access to the residential space from the lobby is elevator only. If you are taking stairs, there's a separate residential stair. One of these 2 existing stairs becomes the main non-handicap, the main access to the residential.
Yep.
And then the second stair becomes the main access, non-handicap. Well, no, actually, the new one we're creating, that lobby is gonna be the main one to the commercial.
You could do it either way. You could have a main lobby that's big enough for everybody to go in, or you could have a separate residential entrance into one of the stairs. The nice thing is there's only residential upstairs. The downstairs in the basement doesn't really need to be publicly accessible either. Like the commercial tenants could have key card access down there. So you could actually block access to the stairs altogether except for egress.
Except I'm thinking that the basement does want, I mean, that's why we've got a 3-stop elevators. I'm thinking that we want to make the basement, I would like to see the basement have the public restrooms that serve
That's where they are
the
now, right?
commercial,
Yeah.
right? But also I'd hate to give up, I mean, we're already giving up space, for lobby. I'd hate to give up more space for that kind of public. And now, we also have part of the program as a commercial kitchen, which again, I think would be best in the basement rather than.
Well,
For
and
sure.
the ceiling heights are tall enough and that at-grade entrance on the east side is low enough that you could pull.
So again, our lobby that we're imagining, our lobby has a shared elevator The lobby is the main access to the commercial space. The lobby is the handicap access to the residential space. And the lobby is the handicap public entrance to the basement space. And we make it this really nice, as you said, generous lobby that then leads to the other spaces. And then one of the two stairs is really just egress for everybody. It's just emergency egress. And the other one becomes, you know, kind of a nice residential main entry for people who aren't using the elevator.
That, or you could just make the lobby also the residential entrance.
But then we would need a stair, or the lobby would have to be near one of the stairs. Like,
But you just, one of the stairs becomes the residential stair. You come into the lobby, you either go to the commercial stair or the residential stair. And
It's a
you-
long way from classroom 3 to one of those stairs, unless you're saying they have to go through the commercial space to get to their stair.
Does Housatonic get mail delivery?
You just come in and go here. I mean, you could come in either one. I mean, you could make a door here, or you can make these the existing doors, the doors, and you just come in and you just go.
Okay, I thought we were saying that we were gonna kind of blow away classroom 2. Make
I think we're still in the options stage of this. I haven't figured it out yet. I think it'd be nice to see these. I'm trying to draw up some options here. So.
I'm just thinking about mail delivery for tenants, but there isn't such a thing.
What if you took that space between classroom 1 and classroom 3? There's already, as you said, that existing little bit of a hallway. What if you doubled that towards classroom 2, took everything right up to, but not including the window? You could take that straight across and make that your like see-through handicap entrance. And then you could actually get to the stair without having gone to the commercial space first. Except for you be paying off classroom 1.
Well, I mean, say classroom 1 is a rentable space. I mean, I guess the question is it one commercial entity or is this multiple tenants?
Well, I think.
You know, is there space to you demolish classroom 3 and you rebuild it a little bit smaller so you get some more space into the public realm, but then you have, you know, you could have a 400 square foot building management office or something there that you kind of walk past to come into the building.
Right, so again, no matter which, so I think there's a little bit of a contradiction. Again, I think we're back to, I think the stair is not to be accessed from the lobby if we're coming in on the classroom 3 side. Because I don't think it's practical or comfortable to have to go through the commercial space to get to your stair. And you would end up cutting off classroom 1. I mean, you wouldn't have any access to classroom except for from the residential lobby. So I think either it's a separate stair or a new stair, if we're gonna come in off the classroom 3 side.
For residential.
I'm sorry?
For residential, for the commercial.
For residential. I think the residential either has to have a new stair that's accessed from our new lobby on the classroom 3 sides, or it's gonna have a separate
Entrance.
designated entrance with a stair
Which is all.
that's not accessible from the lobby. The lobby only accesses the elevators. I think you've got those 2 options. Otherwise, as I said, classroom 1 ends up getting isolated.
Yeah,
What if it's only the stair that's already there?
yeah, that existing stair.
Well, that's where I was going, but you know, but it does have the disadvantage of now, you know, you're sort of separating your elevator and your stair access to the residential, but I think that's okay.
Unless this elevator goes in the corner.
Well, that's under the assumption that the residential and the commercial need separate lobby spaces. I mean, you just have a single lobby space for the building?
Yes, I think that's what we said, but then the question is, how do we get the residential stair connected to that shared lobby space? Right now, we got the elevator connected to the shared lobby space, but how do you get the stair connected to the shared lobby space?
Well, if we drop an elevator in here, so that we get a door on this side and a door on that side, we can connect it to this lobby, we can connect it to the residential stair lobby, not cut classroom 1 off. Have access.
I don't see that, I see either the connection between your elevator and that classroom 3 side entrance, either that is a lobby or it's commercial space. If it's a lobby, you're cutting off classroom 1. If it's commercial space, you're making me, a resident, have to walk through the commercial space to get to my.
Right, but that's why this is a lobby, right?
Let's just throw it both ways and see which looks better.
So.
I can't remember these as well as you guys
Someone
can.
lives on the second floor and they're saying, I'm gonna walk up the stairs. Why wouldn't they take these stairs?
Right, they would come in on Pleasant Street and go up the stairs.
Well, that's the dedicated stair option,
Yeah.
not connected to the shared lobby.
Well, except through here. Couldn't they walk through here and take
Yes,
the elevator the rest of the way if they wanted to, I guess?
right, but if you come in, if you come in this beautiful new lobby, which has access to the residential only by elevator, it would be nice if you had your choice. If everyone came into the same lobby and you had your choice of the dedicated residential stair, the shared elevator, access to the commercial, it'd be nice if it was all one lobby. But I'm seeing a challenge with that because I think that would require creating a new stair.
I would be in favor of actually having the primary, not running the residential people through that shared lobby, except on the as-needed basis for an elevator.
I think that's the
That
dedicated
would be-
stair option.
Yeah,
I think that option is okay.
I think it would be nice for residents to have a choice. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, so it would be nice though if you could make that choice from the same lobby as opposed to having to make that choice outside.
Yeah, I'm thinking, say for instance, you end up with a coffee shop in here and someone says, oh, I want to, I'm going to work and I want to get a coffee, exit out this door and go back in,
No, you
You
could
would
come.
come, you would
Yeah,
come.
come in there and.
Yeah, no, there's no reason why the dedicated residential stairs
Right.
can't be, it would just be key carded access. The only people who could actually get into this from the commercial space would have to be residents,
Yeah.
So,
but anybody could get out.
and you still come in here, you walk by the elevator, you go here and you do something here, and then you go through here instead of,
Here's one.
I don't know, this
version.
doesn't seem that a lot to walk through. I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The only other option is to just elevator go here,
What are those?
right here.
There seems to be
Or
some,
is
This
some big
is-
flue or chimney back there, but yeah.
No, this part.
I don't know. I thought that in this scheme, you can demolish classroom 3 and
All right,
rebuild a little
so now,
thing, some kind of glassy
Oh, I
office,
thought- I
or
thought
make it
had,
open. I don't know.
Like a word or something.
Office.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Feel free to scribble it out. It's probably wrong.
No, I was just trying to read.
I don't think,
So
You can
this is the
have-
other direction of this,
I don't
one,
think you
right?
can
Or-
have
Yeah, it's
your elevator in space that has direct access to commercial. I think there needs to be another set of doors
why.
because it's residential, because I mean, I don't want to walk into,
Well, commercial space, that's corridor space or lobby space. The commercial is all inside these spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. or-
I understand, but there's
There's no
access, their doors are directly onto, I mean, typically you have your commercial corridor and lobby separated, typically,
Right.
and I think that there's a reason for that. I mean, I think people who are going to their residential apartment don't want to feel like they're in a commercial
Sure.
space.
All right, let me draw that one.
Well, that one ends up with your classroom one isolated.
Right. The other thing is that will start to eat into, well, I guess, you have interstitial space upstairs too. It'll just eat into the size of the apartment upstairs. A little bit. So what if you have the 2 doors on the west side? One of them is a residential door, one of them is a commercial door, right?
Mhm.
Then could you put the elevator between the 2? In some way, you could do front back.
Yes, but again, you don't have a stair. That's the thing is, do
Yeah,
we
you have a
build a
stair
new
here.
stair or is the stair a separate dedicated stair? And you gotta decide whether you want the elevator to the stair from outside. Otherwise, you gotta walk through the commercial space.
No, the back becomes the residential stair. So there's some, oh, but then you're cutting these guys off.
Right.
Mhm.
What if one of the, okay, so.
I think it's, okay. I think it's a small building, there aren't that many apartments. I mean, basically, everybody goes in and out the dedicated stair, and when they need an elevator, they know they gotta go in through the lobby.
That's,
And
yeah,
I think, yeah, I think that's okay.
It's moving day,
And it-
really.
Right, it's
Yeah.
moving day, it's, I'm shopping, I've got my arms full of groceries day, whatever it is. I think it's okay to have them separate, and that way you can have a dedicated lobby. You know, you actually walk into, you know, lobby space before you go into the commercial space. That's okay.
well, and not to be tacky about it, but those stairs are big enough that if you needed to put a chairlift, you could put a chairlift up those things.
And we make it something beautiful, so the handicap access to the residential, which is going through this lobby, is still a beautiful entrance.
Yeah,
You're
And
saying
we
no
also
elevator,
have a beautiful dedicated stair entrance.
you're saying a chairlift instead of an elevator up to the
I'm
residential?
saying in that off chance that somebody comes in that front door and you really need it for handicap accessibility,
Oh, right.
and you don't want to drive them through the commercial lobby.
Well,
you
they
could-
can't get to the
Yeah, but they
commercial
won't be
lobby
able
if
to
they need
get-
handicap access, it's
They
stairway.
won't even be able to get this up the stairs.
So
That's
you
what the
really do
chairlift
need to
is for.
decide before you get in, but that's okay, that's what signage is for,
Right.
and the people who live there know it.
I'm going right to the third floor.
There's a third floor?
Second floor. I'm making a third floor.
So you're saying that this commercial entrance would be the front?
Yeah, I think we should make
The
that,
stair
I should
entrance.
make our new blow away classroom free entrance, the entrance, right? That's the beautiful entrance, open it up.
So draw up what you just described, because I'm getting caught at the elevator thing here. Where's, here, you want this? That one.
That was wrong. Give away all my pens.
I
Yeah,
only
I
brought
did
things
bring
I
some
wouldn't,
extras.
I would be okay losing.
So it's masonry on the exterior, when you guys were there on site, what was the interior construction?
Knock down any-
Floors are all concrete.
Okay,
Floors and ceilings are concrete. There's some steel in the basement.
The floors
is
were
that
joists.
wall
The
construction?
floors were wood joists.
Were they, I guess I.
Yeah, where the
remember looking at-
rain was coming through, it was
Yeah.
2 by, looked like true 2 by
There's
12 or
probably
something.
Some steel in the basement with wood.
Well,
Were you
on
the
the,
second floor?
we were on the first floor looking up at the second floor. as well.
Yeah.
That was
So
definitely
it's
wood
wood
joist.
construction.
I would imagine it's conventional, yeah, like
Yeah,
masonry. Probably, it could be clay tile walls, you don't know,
Wow,
for fire separation often they did that.
could be,
What's the age
yeah.
of this? 1919?
09, I think.
1900
Yeah, I thought it was 7 maybe.
Something
Oh,
like
three
that.
maybe?
709.
In that first decade.
I'd say highly likely it would be like a clay
It's
tile
probably-
wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, for the stairs. maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Can you figure out where the elevator next month? I thought I looked at the apartments on the.
That's where I went to.
If the elevator came up somewhere in classroom three, basically, right?
So which is the nicer access to the stairs, the north or the south? Which one should be, I mean, in terms of layout, it's 6 of 1. So which-
South.
South?
Well, because the north one is like an alley.
North one is the back alley.
To the Woozy Dome?
Yeah,
Okay.
No, that's west.
that's north.
North
Well,
is
it's the
Woozy Dome.
northwest.
Yeah,
the
but the
Housatonic, you're
property,
saying.
there's
Is it
more
north?
property there.
The
So
parking lot is to the west.
the Pleasant Street entrance is over here.
That's south.
This is south.
Okay.
The driveway comes around
There's
like
more
this,
property on the north
and then the east
entrance
again.
side.
So it's.
I don't know if that means that you would do something with it, but
So,
just because the driveway's
So
tucked
it's
up there
off of
doesn't mean it
5.
has to be.
so here's sort of a dedicated stair possibility.
So this might be.
Carve out a lobby, and I'd actually pull it inboard right to either side of the window, because this space doesn't have any lobby visibility anyway. So let's let them grab that. Same thing, you can do the same thing on this side, so that these corner spaces are now a little bit larger and they've got some lobby access. And then in this puppy, you know, maybe depending on what the use is, maybe this becomes more immense, beautiful lobby. Or maybe, like you said, maybe it's a commercial space, but their window happens, their entry happens to be a lot of glass so that you can see through their commercial space.
That would be a great conference room that anyone in the building could use and you could see through it. Yeah.
And then the elevator goes in that entrance. And then this is your dedicated
So then
residential
upstairs-
stair, and this is your exit, emergency exit only. And then to go downstairs. Actually, so this would be emergency exit from above. Right, so this
Yeah.
would actually be your stair access. This would be your basement access, your
You
public
could get out
basement
the two
access.
stairs outside.
So this is your public basement access. So again, it's your handicap basement access, and in the basement would be your commercial kitchen, would be your restrooms, maybe storage for the commercial spaces. Maybe, I don't know, if there's carpentry involved, maybe, that carpentry happens in the basement so that it's not disturbing the residential use. But, the basement would be support space for the commercial.
So so you're losing that middle bay upstairs too as a unit.
Yeah, well, again, as you said, I mean, I think if you're gonna have key card
Right.
access.
So I would just move the elevator so you access it from the actual center of the space
Okay,
here, because that means upstairs you can come right into the center of the space and you lose less space. You could put more space back into a unit upstairs.
sure. Yeah, that's true. So you could have corner doors so that at the commercial space and at the lower level, you come out this door, but on the second floor, you come out this door, and this door only opens if you've got residential key access, which makes it even easier to
Or front,
negotiate.
yeah, or front back.
Yeah,
The corner ones I've
Yeah.
done always ended up being the most expensive elevators I've ever
Got
done.
So you'll come back, but just that basically this door is
Mhm.
residential only.
Oh, here's a
on
thought.
the
If you
upper
can go to,
level.
if you're gonna go to front back, let's move it closer to the face of the building and then you don't have to do an exterior ramp. You could just come in at grade, have front back.
Make it a four-stop.
Then you don't have to do any exterior site work. I mean, you don't have to do a ramp. It's a big long
Right.
ramp. I mean, this is what, 4 or 5 feet.
Mm.
That's 50 feet. You don't
Is
have
it
to do.
from this side, it's that much?
I mean, look at all the stairs. I don't know.
All right.
They weren't just adding stairs for
Well,
fun,
1,
right?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 7, yeah.
It's 3, 4, 5 feet, you know,
3.5 feet, yeah.
assuming they were, it's a code. And the drawing is right, I mean, it's 30, 40 feet of ramp that we're eliminating, which actually pays for,
Yeah, for one more stop. I mean. it's the
yeah, you're
same
buying a
elevator.
stop right there, and it's a
Right.
nicer exit. It's you get more parking, it's a nicer site. If you're not covering the whole building in ramps.
This goes here.
Well, what you just drew, I think, should be the vestibule. That's the vestibule, and then you leave the elevator where it is. You come into a
Oh, I
door, there's a
see.
space, then you go through,
Oh, I see what you're saying. So then this is, and this could even be open.
or you
It
come
just
up a
would be a
couple
railing.
stairs to this space.
Well, no, you could have, this could be your handicap entrance from that level. It would get you to the elevator, and then this would be the main entrance, and this could even be a railing. I mean, when you come through the door, you're in the same
How about
space.
this? How about this? You come in at grade, so this whole thing is at
The
sidewalk
whole
level.
thing.
You come in, you come up some stairs, or you go into the elevator and you get up, this is down. Then everyone comes in the same door.
And you use the width of the elevator for your.
Yeah, there, beautiful.
Or not to.
Simple layout.
That's nice.
Except now we no longer, so now this is it's okay, it doesn't need to be a separate door for residential. So now this is So this door is for outside access and this door is for all interior access.
How
Which is
deep is-
fine.
We're doing this all in the depth of
Yeah,
classroom
but. so
3,
you-
which is
you can use
21
either
feet
one.
deep.
Once you get to the basement, you can go front. No, you
Right,
can't.
but what,
You can't because this will dig into the basement.
yes,
So it has
correct,
to go
you're right,
this
so
way.
you
Yeah,
can't.
so the
That's
basement
right.
has to go out that, yep.
Basement has to go out that way and the commercial has to go out that way. And then the residential also, I mean, could residential go that way, but that's kind of a long way around.
So the whole depth of this is like 21 feet, that classroom.
Mhm.
So you come in, I mean, ideally you would come in, you would have a 7-foot vestibule.
Yeah, well,
airlock.
you got, your elevator's gonna be 10 feet.
The stair would be in the this whole thing would be a vestibule airlock, basically.
Right, yeah, absolutely. You come in at the lower level
Right.
and you're confronted with a beautiful set of stairs or the elevator, your choice.
So you have a 7-foot landing, 6-7 feet of stairs, another 7-foot landing.
Right.
And the elevator's, gonna be 8 feet by 8 feet roughly.
Right, so the elevator will be a little bit wider
Yeah,
actually.
no, it
than the
works.
Stair, which is
It
nice.
works.
Or a little
And then you could
deeper
have,
than the stair.
you could have a bunch of double doors or something on the,
Yeah. you
up
make- make a new-
to the open corridor
Make a
space.
new cupboard, cover that access.
Oh, yeah, you have to.
And with this layout, like, we don't have to say what it is, like, here it is, it's all one space, it's different spaces. I mean,
So
even
what
if-
this solves is it gets common access to all of the commercial
Right,
spaces.
and if the Waldorf school decided to take it, this would be the Waldorf school entrance, and this would all just be.
You could lock it
Waldorf.
to the residents even. Right,
Correct.
right. And you just deal with the doors to keep people, so they keep you guys out, but they can't come in.
Right. And then the basement will still belong to the Waldorf.
So if I take that and drop it into this, that elevator is right here.
So getting, if we,
Right, and again, I mean,
so this
there's,
one ends up taking out 2 walls on each side.
Behind a window.
Yes.
It's not, you're
So
not
we have
losing a
to
window
figure out
upstairs.
what- If anything was in there. that
And
we
what's nice
can't,
is up here, you come into the corridor, you don't come into a unit.
um,
right,
So
but
we
it's
have to
worth
make
it, I
sure
think, if it turns out that these are commercial spaces, they're gonna want visibility to the lobby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
You come in next to it.
So you get one studio here. And everything else, you get 2 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms.
Have you laid them out or?
There's definitely,
Done.
I think they said they want sub-zero.
All right, we still got 2 hours.
So,
cavities going to between floors. So these 2 would both be in the, well, this one would be in the diagonal.
What are those?
those are they're probably masonry piers, right?
heating.
I would
Oh,
imagine.
I think they're bigger than that.
Yeah, I think they're too big for that.
You think
I
they're
think
blues?
there's a lot of mechanicals that are running up through those and then out.
Yeah, so that's fair. And there's probably, oh no, there are roof drains, it's not a flat roof. So
No,
that's
it's
good.
not. So all that stuff is gonna go anyway.
Well, I guess it would be nice, I mean, part of the nice thing about taking over a building like this is you feel, how much of the existing could be upstairs.
Floors are beautiful. Exterior trim is beautiful.
I mean, with the window layout, do you actually, you're saying we can make this connection, we can make that separation?
Oh, and don't forget that,
Yeah,
if the building is sprinkled, we don't need, we no longer need egress windows. So you don't have to worry about that. You could put the bedroom, you can make the bedroom dark if you want.
Yeah, we don't need to.
No, I'm just saying, because you've got that flexibility.
Don't need to.
So you're cutting down the corridor to 6-foot corridor.
Yeah, why
Into
not?
the scheme,
Why not?
right, and you get,
Keep it the same width as this. Just
You get
run
4
it straight
2-bedrooms?
through. You get 4 2-bedrooms, you get 3 1-bedrooms, and you get 1 studio, which loses the bedroom because of the
Elevator line.
and the elevator line.
that's a 1-bedroom.
This is 750 square feet.
Now this,
Bath,
Oh, bath.
bedroom, living, kitchen.
right,
Again, we're talking not market rate luxury.
yeah.
But a 500 square foot 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah. You're adding a window here somewhere.
No, that's existing.
Oh, that's an existing window, wow.
Well, it's above the doors.
Oh, yeah, well, yes,
There's existing windows there.
it's a nicer window for a bathroom than a bedroom, but I guess it sort of works.
It is, but better a window in a bedroom than in a bathroom. But you get these.
I guess I'd rather see You could also just move the demising wall, just lose one bed. Make it a more generous, no, you make this a generous one bedroom, you make this a more generous two bedroom.
I guess, but then you reduce the number of apartments, which doesn't make sense.
Well, it's more than the zero they have now.
So let's go for 8.
I mean, does a studio really pay for the project? I mean, I don't know, I guess that's all later, I mean, you can figure it out
This could
later.
be, I mean, based on what Fred is saying, this could be 2 bedroom.
I just like the idea of starting at a point where like the windows naturally, it feels right, the window layout with, it's not compromising on quality of space, you know?
So how many units do we have? We're saying 6 or 7, right?
We're saying
He's
8
saying
or
trying for
7.
8.
7 or 8. The 8th being a studio.
8 being a studio.
So
And
where do you
Floor
have?
space wise, you're
Oh,
definitely right.
you divided up the center ones into 2. You made
So-
that hallway smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
But-
let's figure,
What if those walls need to be there?
There's enough room, I think, in there that we could either tuck a band of bathrooms or something, even if we had to sneak
Right,
it to one
closets
side
or
of the
storage or-
closets, or if we had to sneak this to one side or the other because of this elevator, then this hall jogs a little bit and we get enough space. That hall is almost 18 feet wide. So if we cut 6 feet out of it, 6 feet out of it, we get a 6 feet hall. Those 6 feet are big enough to get bathrooms in. So we've created sort of a service band on either side of that
that's
hall
excellent.
that can do that function.
So let's say that there are 8 units. The average rent up and down is $1,000. A little bit more for 4 bedrooms, a little bit less for fewer bedrooms. But I think $1,000 a month is probably
Probably
about
about
right.
right. Yeah.
So that's $8,000, and we need 14. So that leaves us with $6,000.
Wait, why do we need 14? That's under a $4 million project?
That was
That was the $15,000 number that somebody said.
14,000.
Was it 14?
14,000 would service what we had anticipated might be the loan required for the project.
Right.
I mean, again, I didn't do the math, but I'm just taking that at face value.
Yep.
So we have potentially 5 commercial spaces.
Right.
And we need another $8,000, so that's $1,600 a month for a commercial space. And they're about 800 square feet. So what is that?
$2 a square foot.
It's a lot more than that, right?
24.
Right, so it's $24 a foot, which is twice what the going rate is, yes. $12,
And-
$12 to $14.
Really, even in Main Street, Great Barrington?
I don't know what Mean Street Barrington is.
But it is-
This isn't Main Street, you're Barrington.
Right.
I didn't realize that.
No, I think 12 to 14, so it's twice. So it would have to be subsidized. There's no question that it has to be subsidized.
Well, affordable
But we're not-
can't happen
We're
ever
not
without
accounting,
this.
we're not accounting for any commercial space yet in the basement in those numbers.
Yeah,
I don't think you can count on that.
Yeah, I mean,
Revenue.
the whole point of the commercial kitchen was that it was publicly accessible.
Is that the point of commercial kitchen?
So-
Yeah, the point of a commercial
Publicly-
kitchen, absolutely accessibility. Think about, even, we were just talking about the specialties place. Right now, they're using the Congregational Church
In Great
in
Barrington.
Great Barrington. So, but there is a business model there where canning, nonprofit, everybody to do, but yeah.
I'm part of an organization, we're applying for a state grant right now for food security. They just
Yeah.
extended the deadline another week. You may know about this. I mean, that's what's gonna pay for a commercial kitchen if it's public like that. Otherwise, as far as I can tell, within 100 miles, there's a lot of restaurants going out of business. There's commercial kitchens all over this state. I mean,
Right,
to build another one has to have, it's gonna have to be subsidized in some way, and it's not gonna work into the business plan, I don't
But
think.
a commercial kitchen is gonna take that entire basement anyway.
Well,
Well, you
I
got
think
your
we
public
need to work on the
restrooms.
idea of what a commercial kitchen is. I mean,
Yeah.
if you get something that has an answer kind of system in it, that takes you to a certain level.
Right.
But there may be a level just below that we're talking about that's not.
No, commercial, so by code, a commercial kitchen is anything not associated directly with a residence.
Mhm.
So it's gonna be a commercial kitchen and you're gonna want an answer system. I'm not gonna wanna live
Yeah.
upstairs
Right.
from.
You're right.
Yeah.
You'd have to.
Yeah.
Please get gas. Is there gas on here? Can you do natural gas?
No.
Nobody,
No, it's moratorium still. there?
no, it's just not available.
Oh, it doesn't, they don't even have it. Okay.
There's nothing in the street.
Okay. We have it in the street, we can't use it, so. There's a moratorium.
Oh, really?
That's a topic for a different day.
That's They're further down the line than we.
Right, yeah.
So then based on what I just said, so I think we could count on maybe $4,000 a month for the commercial space. We got 8, that's 12. So it needs to be subsidized on the order of $2,000 to $3,000, or we need to make it cheaper. It needs to come in under whatever the presumption was. But basically,
That's
I
under
think-
a $4 million budget.
So, here are the numbers. If 4 million was put into the building, it would be 14,583 in rents. If 5 million were put into the building, it would jump to 18.
And what if it were 3 million?
I didn't calculate that.
That was probably gonna be your budget. I mean, honestly, I think we just easily came up with about $12,000 a month, is what this is probably gonna generate.
And you use what for the rental?
1,000 average for the rent,
Average.
for the residential
Residential
units.
rental.
I think
And then-
that's probably low. Yeah, that's a little low.
And
Under
that's a-
affordable?
Those are mostly 2 bedrooms.
Okay, does anybody have, I'm getting numbers from the regional planning commissions, the One Berkshire Economic Development folks.
And what do they consider to be
They
affordable rent?
haven't responded to me
Okay,
yet, but we'll
But
go with that.
that could help.
I mean, I would imagine
But
you
you
could get
also-
a 1-bedroom for under market rate for close to that out here, no?
Yeah, you can.
I can't, affordable is gonna be a lot less.
Market rate, 1 bedroom.
Well, so affordable just means it's subsidized, right? It's not what the
Yeah, but it limits
project
the,
generates.
but it limits the revenue that you can bring in.
No, it doesn't, because it's subsidized, which means that the rest of it comes from the
Oh,
state.
makes it up.
So, but,
Not always.
I think you
no,
gotta
it's
be
not,
careful.
I'm just saying.
Means that
it's-
the rent that the person pays is no more than 100% area.
Right, there's a 30% schedule for affordable.
Whether that's subsidized from the state or whether you're.
Whether you're taking grants up front, one way or the
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
Right, so, but again, either way, it does cut down the required, things, but again, you can't just meet, you've got to be 10 to 15% above for maintenance and for vacancy and for
Well,
everything else.
So what
I have
happens
a
with-
question, Robert. Could you be upside down for the first 5 years and then as inflation makes the rents go more cash positive, make it up?
It wouldn't be inflation, it would be an increase of your median income, which is gonna be a lot slower than inflation.
I meant for the
Unfortunately.
commercial, I meant for the commercial spaces.
Oh, for the
If
commercial
you could
space.
be upside down for, you lose money for the first 5, you put all your capital money out
I
first.
think you're,
And you're not, what you're saying is that you're not able to meet the 2 ends meet on day 1. Because of
Right. I mean-
your debt service is greater than the rent. coming in.
I
You're
guess,
upside down for 5 years, 5 years later, your debt service is still
No,
the
I understand
same,
what you're
and you're,
right, I just think the conversation is premature. I mean, I mean, for all I know, this is a $2 million project. I mean, we,
It's hard to believe. though.
yeah, so it's hard to believe. Well, so you've got
It's it's about 10,000 feet
Well,
a
8.
floor.
8, it's under 8.
It is?
Yeah.
It's 20, it said it was almost 30,000 gross.
8 times 3, so it's 24,000.
I read 27 something.
I mean, the
20
building is 120 by 65.
It's,
It says
This says it's
27, 28,677.
Per floor.
This is 7,130 per floor.
Right.
That's net though.
That must be.
No. I'm telling you, the length of the building based
That
on this
says
drawing
gross.
is 120 feet.
I'm sure you have to guess.
Well, they're wrong.
Well, somebody's wrong.
Somebody's 120 by what?
Not including the
It's, well, let's
circulation
just call it
space or
8,000 because
something?
the number's easy. So it's 8,000.
10,000 is
Times
easier.
24,000 square feet. And you gotta figure at least $200 a foot on average.
So that's 4.8.
That's a $4 or $5 million project minimum.
But that's less the 600,000 that's gonna be put by the town to address.
I mean, I think that-
No, that's just, that's gonna be eaten up just with remediation.
The fact is, this is not, if this was a project that just made sense on the numbers, it
Plus
would have been
food,
done
plus
already.
food.
Right.
This is not gonna make sense on the numbers. This
Right.
is something, this is a premium to keeping a building that has a legacy and history to the town, and the town's gonna have to pay, somebody has to pay for that, otherwise it just won't
Well, from
happen.
the town's point of view, they have to pay no matter what.
Yeah,
I mean, if
exactly.
they were gonna, nobody's talking about them as demolition, but if they were, they have to do asbestos abatement before they do demolition and all that.
Sure.
That's-
But there comes a point when, at which natural forces will demolish the building. I mean,
Right.
there's money to keep it up.
So, but the thing is, you can,
It's
like,
leaking now.
if the program gets approved and you can generate pro forma, you can figure out what you can spend, and then the town just has to come up with the difference up front to get the project within those parameters.
Right.
And you're not talking infinite, you're talking somewhere $1-2 million. It's not a huge amount of money. And it could make this thing be able to stand on its own. They can walk away from it.
I would look,
It's now got a debt service that it can maintain.
yeah, I would look very strongly at what are the enabling projects that make this a doable project for some public or private entity to take it on? And it's an elevator, it's some accessibility, it's some asbestos. Work that into some kind of grant, and there's a lot of money coming from the feds right now, and now's the time to be ready to do that.
I like your analysis. I think that's a very good way to approach it.
The, is this under PVPC? Yeah. We're under, no, I'm on the Pioneer Park Valley Planning Commission representative from Northampton. And the whole last meeting was all about get your ducks in a row now, because they're fighting over the money, and get the grants together, because they're gonna have more money than they know what to do with for all these
Well,
programs.
and the thing is, it's also, you know, if something like Habitat or Construct would get involved, then they write grants for the affordable housing
The fit
portion.
out, it's a fit out.
And they actually, part of their grants is acquisition. I mean, they could
Right.
conceivably buy this building from the town for 600 or 700 or 800,000, which the town can then just turn right around and put back into the building.
Or could they do an acquisition that's a 100-year lease or something?
There are all kinds of possibilities. I don't know, again, what
General
Own it outright.
Yeah, they either do outright ownership, or they have a management company. So they could also be a management.
Could you condoize the top and bottom? or something?
Well, that's what I was wondering.
I don't know that there's such thing as affordable housing.
There is, they
condos.
have a purchase,
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
Wow.
there's even a lease to purchase option.
They determined there's no level of complexity that they won't go to with affordable housing.
But I do think we can, you know, sort of report out that there is a way to be able to make it commercial on the ground level, residential on the upper level, include an elevator. We think it's a brilliant idea to create a new public access through the west side of the building. That the basement level should be dedicated to the commercial support space and the commercial kitchen. So there'd be storage, there'd be public restrooms, there'd be the commercial kitchen, that kind of thing.
You probably could be able to cram another commercial rental space in.
You might,
It's pretty
Yeah.
good amount of space.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know
think
how,
so too.
how big does a
Downstairs?
commercial kitchen need to be,
Yeah,
1,000 square
downstairs.
feet?
well, I think.
And you have
commercial
some
kitchen wants to
decent
be
sized
associated with enough space for Pratt and for Pratt.
Oh,
You know,
for- yeah,
On the playground side, I think you have big enough windows to make it,
yeah.
Nice
make it
enough,
nice
you know,
space
but I
for-
mean, I don't know what, yeah, it's not making the project work. I mean, it's just
That's
getting a
the
little more.
thing.
No,
But I
I'm
think what
just-
you're
I'm
trying to
just
do is get
looking
it
to bump
more
the rent up a little
populated,
bit,
right?
Yeah.
to create more rent
Right.
opportunities.
Yeah, I definitely think there's space. here.
I think the benefits are also just getting another active use on the playground side, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
and that's the big thing is like not dark windows, right?
get windows on the street. Where's Jane Jacobs?
And the nice thing about the West End,
I really think we burned our lunch.
it's only 10:15.
Lunch has arrived and we have cold drinks and coffee, so help yourselves whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you.
So how do we, before we break, let's just talk about what, you know, let's spend the next, after lunch, just putting together something for the town as a sort of a summary. Do we want to do some graphics and maybe just a little narrative or something like that? What do we want to leave the town with?
Yeah, so around 1 or 1:15, we'll start the report out. So I think you're right. It's sort of verbally talking about so that they can sort of report, you know, elevate just your general schemes as far as how you organize floors, the elevator. But then, yeah, graphically, we should give, I mean, we're good at reading drawings, but I think graphically it would be better for them to also just have the general ideas blocked out to take away. But we can do that after lunch, right? We can do that.
Yeah. The bonus is the elevator's gonna be above the mechanical room.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, well, wait.
Well, well, next to the Capitol. so go to the
Yeah,
basement.
yeah, but you're right.
That's good. Can you keep it? All right.
For the
okay.
pit. All right, thank you.
Look at this elevator, that's how we got away with it for 65,000 and not 100.
No, she's saying we don't need to. We have the pit already there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know, but it costs more to do a pit than a non-pit.
The pit's already.
Which way is, these are the same.
Yeah, I know, it's a damn confusing, right? They are actually running it the same way. I had them
Oh,
marked.
I have it backwards then. Here. So north is,
North is to the right.
so I'm turning them over. Okay, so now north is this way.
But they might also welcome commercial space available, because they make the pastries that they serve with their food. So they might be a possible users of that.
I think there, it sounds like a lot of times there's like dozens of possible use. But the thing is like bringing up to a certain level of infrastructure and nice enough space that then you can go shopping around and find the match. Because there's going to be, these institutions are also inherently, well, we'll know if it works, we'll use it, but if it's not, I don't know, like they're not necessarily the organizations that are going to make it all happen. It needs to be the town
Yeah.
that pushes it.
If there are any catering spaces that use, catering spaces that use a church kitchen twice a week to make their stuff, and that could be used for that too.
And someone like the Waldorf School would be fantastic, but this project would be scary for them. It has to be brought to a certain level. And
Yeah.
then they say, okay, I can imagine walking in here, but
Yeah.
dealing with asbestos and lead and all that stuff. Right.
We're gonna eat
I would
something,
also
yes?
think we should think a little bit about site work and connections to the surrounding. Because it's a lot of public
Dog
Yeah.
park.
programs.
Let's
around.
reconvene for
I
that.
don't even
Yeah.
do dog.
That's another 4-H.
It is, but also we just don't have the materials for that.
No,
Right.
that is true.
I mean, the good news is we've got a street front, we've got a parking lot, and we've got a park.
Right.
But I mean, if they like this
Yeah.
idea
Right.
and they want us to reconvene and take a look at site based on
Mhm.
this idea or some modification of it, I'd be willing to come back. I mean, I think it's a good group. We should come up with some ideas.
So this is, the Housatonic is over here. in the store.
So that makes for a really nice.
Yeah, it's over
It's
there.
really nice. It's really nice.
They didn't want to give up any
It
of
works
their
works
park.
well with this.
From different ends.
That's the purpose.
Yeah.
That's what you need. You don't need everything.
Good. Thank you. The wheels are turning. I can see it. What's going on?
I was trying to remember, did Sharon start in this building?
Yeah, yeah, they're.
Did have an office there. I was trying to remember the very beginning. Thought that was the case.
Well, no, not in this building, in this building.
Yeah, and then before they moved.
Right.
To another vacant school building.
A lot nicer, one that's kind of $20. I mean, that's another possibility. Maybe this town of Housatonic is just incorporates its own town, to make this their town hall.
They're everything, yeah, all the facilities, yeah, put it all in there. I'm sure there's.
It's time for an insurrection. Let's
Yeah.
secede from Great Barrington.
That comes out pretty good, actually, right? It's like every.
You didn't record that, did you?
All of a sudden the Zoom starts going crazy. I will.
It's not so abstract.
If Great Barrington could sweep Housatonic under the rug.
They would.
They would.
Yeah.
So I like. Yeah.
We town hall is bursting at the seams so much that they were using the old fire station.
Yeah.
Office. I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing now, they got rid of the fire station. Finally.
Yeah. This is a great building now. It's the first time I've been in this building. It's a good move.
This is a Clark and Green.
Is it?
They had an outside fire station expert, I think, helping them with the plan. They did all of the working documents here. And this is a great space. This is a town home. We use this for town meetings because it's accessible. It's
Yeah.
We were having some of our Zoom meetings, the town of Great Barrington stopped doing hybrid meetings for a little remote meetings.
Yeah.
We were able to have hybrid meetings, and with this board, we're in a webinar format now. But at our HIC meetings, we were in a standard format, and people from that were at home could participate on this board, and it was a great space.
Yeah. It's a good setup.
Anybody have a bottle?
Oh, you know what? I didn't grab one. I think it's in my truck. Let me go grab one.
I think I got this. This will work here. Oh, there's a middle one here.
The glasses are great too on this side.
I was on the school committee for 8 years. I got to know Charrette pretty well.
Excellent.
So we just do my best. Say hello.
Thank you. Well,
You guys have a new business? Two blue line?
that was almost 20 years ago.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Okay.
Can't keep up. No, I think, you guys got some concrete bones here that the committee can use.
This is the easy part, it's free.
Here's the fun part.
Yeah, the sketching is the most part. Generating ideas.
I just got an email from one of my partners that in University of California, Santa Barbara, Warren Buffett's partner, business partner, is donating like a bunch of money to build a dorm. But the architect quit because this donor wants this scheme where 80% of the rooms have no windows.
Oh, no.
And the architect's like, I won't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw that.
They want to put in like digital screens instead of windows for like 5,000 students too. It's insane.
Yeah, it's almost 5,000 students.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And what's his justification? Like, what does he think that's
He
gonna
just
do to
wants,
that
he
house?
just wants to prove that it's okay.
That it's okay. It's okay.
He's 97 years old. This guy.
That's very, well, okay, might work for architecture students, right? Like, when we come in at 2:30 in the morning, we might be okay, let's see.
I wasn't here.
Yeah, it was.
But that's horrible.
Yeah.
That does a lot to your mental health to not have access to natural light. And how do you get out?
Especially if you're in the one climate in the world where you basically live outside.
Yeah, true, California, yeah.
In Santa Barbara, it's kind of like the perfect environment.
Really, so they're like trying to impose their will on 5,000.
Follow the school board.
What is that?
Cola, what's the?
Yeah, it's a seltzer. Topo Chico is, I've heard it's the most carbonated seltzer you can buy, basically.
Are you from Dalton? I am. The building you described, middle school, junior high school that I went to.
Open my
Oh,
bottle
I
of
went
seltzer and
I
leave them
went
on the
to,
counter for 2 days before I put them in there.
Right, I went to.
Still have a little bit of.
Bill Dakota was only 3 years old. when I was a freshman.
Well, I get no information about it
Okay.
from all my relatives.
No, but I was like, oh, I know exactly what she's describing.
yes,
Yeah, about
yeah.
everything, honestly.
It was too bad, you know, the weird thing was, you know, they didn't want this,
It's good, but yeah.
people who would be in the old housing. I'm thinking to myself,
It would have been
I
a
came
perfect
here-
building for that.
oh, good. And people there, they don't remember when they were school here.
Yes, yeah, yep, I went to school there and I still go back, they still have. one. So I'm always back.
You know, and now, not that everybody.
Oh, that's great. Is he local?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to hear that, sorry. Okay.
My
It's
mother,
not a
my
guarantee.
mother was in
It's
my housing
just-
down by the river.
Do you know Alex Diaz?
Opposite the post office.
I don't.
Used to be the Sawyer Mill.
Really, the only person I contact
River
station.
Road. My mother
Do you know
was in
Manson
town.
House?
On the side or in the top?
She's a fellow.
She's lower down the end.
So I talked to
So
her.
that was in for.
Cindy Gibson. she's a
Or she
professor
passed
now.
I grew up on Grange
I've
Hall.
heard about this now.
So I have a partner named Alex Diaz who's
There you go.
probably 70, but his son is also named Alex
Richie
Diaz.
Zink was in
And he went to Roger Williams.
Oh,
He probably graduated
Yeah,
in
I think he's at LPS.
2007, 8. 9.
Yeah, he was after that, yeah.
Laura's.
So yeah, so I wouldn't come across from there, but I feel like I've heard the name.
Youngsters, I'm envious.
Mark Franklin cutting.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
you know, it's a great school, it's a great program. I like
think I
that.
have
There's enough local people that, I used to teach portfolio reviews, actually, for locals.
For some reason, whatever class you taught, I did.
Anyway, so the funny part is, I was on the school committee here. My daughter was on it, I'm here now, 20 miles away. I'm an outsider. I'm not a local.
That's awesome.
Now, this whole town is full of New Yorkers who resettled here.
Oh, yeah.
My wife
But
was
when I went to the school committee, because I didn't go to that high school,
Yeah.
I went to the high school 20 miles away.
Yeah.
I'm an outsider.
My wife went to Lacona and
Oh,
grew up in Cummington. Her parents moved there in like 1970 or
That's
something.
awesome.
And she was born there and lived her whole, I mean, now we live in Northampton, but you know, she's seen as like a newcomer. And she's never lived in, I mean, she's lived other places, but like, she'll never be seen as like, because they don't go back 3 generations, you know?
yeah.
Well, in Northampton, you mean, or
In Cummington, yeah,
Yeah, it's that way in Dalton, like my friend,
yeah.
you know, she grew up in Williamsburg, moved to Dalton, and she never felt like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I go be around town with her. and, oh, I'm
Good,
still
she
that-
was already doing
I'm still
that.
that-
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
still that-
Good.
she's like, I just don't feel like- She lived there over 20 years, and she still knows about.
They're having a big fight, not fight, but like a big long-term controversy in Cummington too with their school, because they closed the school and they had just put a bunch of money into it.
But now it's all
And then
changed.
they tried to do a little kind of community incubator thing, and that became a big problem. Tomato sauce or
and the whole
something.
new, the whole, coming for the new Lacona.
Yeah.
They just built a brand new high school and they knocked down the
Right.
Lacona,
Yeah.
or they're knocking it down, I guess.
Mhm.
And Dalton sort of dominated the vote
Right.
in some of the smaller towns, I
yeah,
think
great.
Hinsdale and Beckett maybe voted against it.
Yeah, that could
Yeah.
vote it again.
I think Cummington's trying to figure out what to do, which way to go, because a lot of the students go
Right.
to Williamstown, to Williamsburg, a lot of the students go to Ashfield
Well, yeah.
for
Kids
elementary.
always went to Smith
Or Smith, yeah,
in Florence.
yeah. It's a-
Which
it's a
kids?
problem.
Your kids went
No,
there?
the Cummington kids,
Then when I
Go to
moved
Smith Vote?
Massachusetts,
some do, yeah. I mean, they tuition in.
Some do, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, now for high school, yeah, but the elementary, there's no
Yeah.
elementary school in Cummington anymore, so they
Yeah.
choice into 3 or 4 different places. But for everyone, it's like a 45-minute drive.
Well, it doesn't matter which direction either.
I know.
Because Gateway is
much better
not
now.
close.
Honestly, most of the people moving to Covington at this point are homeschoolers.
Yeah.
They're actually getting an influx of
Florida.
quite
Make
uh,
an electrician one.
Go for it.
intensive religious people, because there's very religious people because of that, because there's no school. Yeah,
Oh, it's
tricky.
It's much better now.
I think it's a classic problem of like, it's a nice place to live. but They don't want to do anything to bring any people. They don't want more people.
Right.
Then
Wow.
it's hard to face the fact that you don't get any services if you don't have any people
And the tax
and no
base,
tax base. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and geography doesn't.
Well, so it's not NCARB that does the requirements.
Right.
It's
You're right in the middle.
Yeah, NCARB is just the messenger.
Yeah, they're just the
Not,
messenger.
not a very good messenger at times.
Yeah.
They are
And
a good
it's,
messenger.
They're much better than they
Yeah,
used to be,
the
that's
school,
for sure.
I was on the school committee for
I
about
took
2
my
months.
exam in Vermont.
Yep. And they
because,
voted
at
to
the
do,
time, Massachusetts
they
was only
voted
doing
to
their
do
exam
ground
once a year,
system.
and they were doing it in Boston,
I did it.
in an unheated warehouse.
Play about planning.
Optimal.
That's how New York City
And
did
in
it.
Vermont, that was the same exam. And in Vermont, they were doing it twice a year. They were doing it on Montpelier, which is a long drive. It's on the campus, and every building, you know, everybody had their own desk with an outlet. I mean, it was, you know, so I took it there.
You know, right now. I think
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
the
So
cost
that's
of
where I
living
took it,
seems
and
to
immediately, of course, had to go through the
The
reciprocity
information I
process.
had at
Yeah.
least 2
But
years ago.
I don't know,
So,
for some reason,
So-
my process
The
was
reason
just
they
a
got rid
couple
of
of months.
well,
It was
was
very,
not-
very.
Are you having a problem
I
now?
had 20 plus years in between
No,
getting
it's
licensed.
Elementary schools and reading.
Maybe that's because the license was so fresh yet, and everything was there.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was really no problem.
so
My experience, if your check doesn't bounce, they will do it. That's what they're interested in.
You're right,
Yeah.
it's down to the
Same
business,
square feet.
business model.
And they were
yeah.
built by the same, they were.
I don't
designed by the same
understand it,
architect,
yeah.
Built at the same time by the same contractor.
It seems like the states could just
One
talk to
has
each other
ground
or
source
something. you know,
No, that's
it's
the
really
problem,
weird,
is the
yeah.
states
One of them
still
had a
want the
grant.
ability to control it,
So
so it's, I mean, that's why there's like
So
something a
they're
little bit
operated
different
on
about
the same
each state.
schedule, by the same
Yes, sir, yeah.
operator.
It
They're
can be
competing,
complicated, but
you know,
NCARB has done a
whatever.
pretty good job of trying to streamline
So it's
the
really
process
interesting
and
parallel
states
study.
to do a little more.
Almost identical.
Doesn't matter.
I wish NCARB would take over these websites, because all the states' websites are horrible.
They were older. so this
Connecticut is
study-
impossible.
Yeah,
That's
it's ridiculous.
Even Massachusetts, all the websites are
They
horrible.
still use
And,
like
um,
old terms, like they just,
It
they,
makes it really
but most of the
interesting.
time it's because they're licensing.
The ground source
Ford
sequence was
is
an earlier
just-
technology.
People my age.
that required
No.
a lot of energy.
You know, my-
It's-
A
you know
lot
what
of
it is,
pump
is that
energy
they're not
becomes
just
less.
architects, they're also
Nowadays,
engineers,
you
it's
can
also
get a
the, you know,
cycle.
depending on the state, you the same person issues
Yeah.
the architectural license, is your hairdresser, you know, issues the
Not for
hairdresser.
When you
architects,
send
architects, there's a
the
board of
fluid
architects.
down.
Not necessarily in
to
every
pick up
state,
In Massachusetts, yeah.
Yes, there is,
So
yeah.
my colleague, or someone she used to work with us, she got invited to be on the board.
Nice.
But then you actually had to be licensed for like 10 years to
10
be on the
years.
board. So
Who
it's like,
who was it? Was it Lindsay?
Lindsay, yeah.
Yeah, that was a horrible snap.
Yeah, and then they invited her instead to be on the board of UMBA or
It
something.
was terrible. What they did to her was awful.
Yeah.
That was pretty terrible.
But also, it's like the whole point is, don't you want someone who's just gone through it, not someone who's
Yes.
10 years and forgotten about it, you know?
Well, they consider, yeah, they consider just going through it.
But the system's also changed. I think they have two different tests since I took it, you know, whenever that
Two
was.
different.
They've changed the tests so.
Well, the exam,
Yeah.
a different version, yeah.
Yeah, so like,
Even just
what,
Yeah,
format,
there you
I mean, right? I mean, you
That-
have,
that
did you have to do
changes.
8 hours straight? You had to do 8 hours.
no, I didn't have to do that.
5 days, 4 days.
4 days.
4 days.
4 days, and the fourth day was 8 hours straight.
And then you walk uphill, no, I'm kidding.
Both directions.
In the
We
snow.
In New York City, they do it on the piers,
Oh.
unheated in July. Bring
They were
your
doing it
own-
in the Javits Center for a while.
Well, that was way after.
Yeah. I just did it in one pen. One of those. They just have an office space and you go and do
Where's
click
your
around.
office in the city?
We actually just moved 6 months ago. We were in Chelsea for 25 years. I mean, I haven't been there for 25 years, but we were on 26th and 8th, and we just moved. We actually shut that space from Perkins Eastman, right by Flatiron. So, and we're actually in the process of being acquired by
Oh, wow.
Perkins Eastman.
No
So,
way.
yeah. So,
Well, speaking about offices now, individual offices can actually become a testing center for the ARA.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you can actually become a certified PSI testing center, and then if you have employees, you know, with a firm your size, if you've got 20 employees that are, you know, you can actually create a space in your office that can get certified to be a testing center, and then your employees can actually, which is great for accessibility, and, you know, it's also probably terrible, and I can say, yeah, you can go take your exam for us, and I went back at your desk. doing that. But it's still a pretty good opportunity, you know, because
No, 7 of them.
it depends, every exam is slightly different, but now there's only
There's
5.
there's 5 now?
No, 6, I lied, that's terrible, that's terrible.
The exams work longer than 4 hours. Some of the last, it was 2 a day. There were 7 exams, 2 a day, 4 hours each, and then the 4th day was 1 8-hour exam.
I thought it was 12.
No, 7. There were 7.
No, 12 hours.
I think it was only 8. I don't think it was
You
12.
guys have better memories than I do. I blocked it out. As soon as I walked out, I was like, never have to remember that again.
Oh, right, it's very true. Well, and that's one of the reasons they eliminated the scratch paper in the exam, was because people were going in and doing breakdowns, so they walk in, and they spend the first 10 minutes just listing everything that they just memorized in the car, anything they thought they'd forget, and then they take the exam, and, you know, you walk out and forget about it. But so they eliminated scratch paper, so you're not freely writing.
The whole idea is silly. Like the idea that you would have to take an exam without looking stuff up, like that's not what you do as a professional. Like you just look it up.
You grab
Like,
a book and, yeah.
especially nowadays with Google and everything. And it's like,
It's on
I
their
mean,
fingertips.
you should be teaching people to look things up efficiently.
Properly,
Like,
efficiently.
Not memorizing all this. And I don't get it. Or at least just if you're going to test people on the actual building code in your state. Because people come out, you get a license, you still don't know the building
Yeah,
code.
yeah,
What's the
exactly.
point? It's just bizarre.
It is. But so that's part of what Incremental is doing now, is they're doing studies to figure out, is this the right licensing model for our period of time? So it could be that our licensing exam either isn't an exam or it's completely different than what it is now. So we'll see, in the next 5 years, it's gonna be a lot different.
So we had a limit at one point, 300,000 purchase price. We just removed that because if you're a two-family. Now there's a house.
I mean, I think the hard part is that like 50% of it is knowledge and 50% of it is like, well, we just want to make it a little harder for you to be able to put the little initials after your name. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I should have the right to dress hair too.
Some states.
Everything I've been through.
I mean, look what I
Yeah,
do to
right.
myself.
I was gonna say, hope your clients all look like that.
Well,
The
yeah,
woman bought it. Was like,
it is interesting because the people who actually write the test questions and create the exam content, they're us, they're licensed architects. We do it to ourselves. The exam, the current exam model, we do to ourselves. That's us testing this.
Kind of.
Well, the nerds of us, not all. There's a certain,
Obviously.
That's why I love the idea of Lindsay being there, because Lindsay's like a regular architect person. A lot of these people are people who are like, they were the kids who, we had AIAS when we were in school. Do you have this?
Yeah, it still
It's like these
exists.
people who were just not really ever interested in architecture. They wanted to be in the sort of political, social part of it.
Yeah.
And then like, they always kind of filter, like this guy, who's the guy who's at the AIA? He's always giving himself awards. They just gave him like a lifetime achievement award.
Oh, I don't know, I didn't follow
Oh,
it.
it's this whole world of people that's like that. You know?
oh, you can have one too.
I don't want that one anymore.
I like
You know, I
it.
stopped. I have all these cards sitting at home, and I just like haven't been giving out this for 18 months. I haven't been.
It's very true. Yeah.
Really?
And it's not.
Mine's
I should be, I
Robert,
just haven't
except
been.
says Carrie.
Also, you're at Berkshire Design Group.
No, Berkshire Design Group is towards your area, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
landscape design. No, we're Berkshire Design.
Oh, it's Berkshire Design.
We were first.
Okay.
And we're in the Berkshire.
That's why,
Oh, I see.
that's why
We're
the
actually
Berkshire
in the
Design
Berkshires.
Group,
Yeah.
because Berkshire Design was already incorporated.
Oh, okay. Oh, I get it.
However, we weren't savvy enough to go get the BerkshireDesign.com
I
website.
see. Yeah.
So they got the Berkshire Design website.
Well, you're not really. I mean, they're
What happened
doing
was-
civil and site. and stuff.
Yeah, we're not
You guys are-
really, yeah, yep.
You'll merge.
It would be great if we could, yeah, have a group.
They're nice guys,
project.
they're
Really
nice over
good.
there. They're nice people.
Yeah, everybody like, never actually met with them, worked with them, but everybody speaks highly of them.
Yeah.
We were sitting on.
I think they're just a little too larger scale for some of the work we do, like we do a lot, smaller scale and high-end residential, and they don't seem to do a lot of high-end residential, so.
Basically.
Yeah, I think they do more
They really are
multifamily and
campuses
institutional and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're a
Yeah,
little
I put them on a team once or twice, but I don't, we haven't landed one with them.
First thing you do is. financial-
Yeah, I'm glad that there's actually events perking up because actually, do you know Garth?
Yeah, he's on the board.
So I actually was on a review yesterday at UMass.
Oh,
And
nice.
he walked over. And I'd heard seen his name before. I'd never met him in person.
Yeah.
And we were saying like, especially because I'm actually, my official membership is down in New York and
Yeah,
they've started having events yet. But they were already, they were always having obviously like millions of events all the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
And coming up here, it's like there's a lot of people who know each other really well, but then coming in as a newcomer, it was kind of hard to get to know people in the architectural community. If you weren't
Yeah.
like teaching at anything.
It is very much organized on all colleges for sure, and it's
Right.
hard for the Berkshires even to participate in that sort
Right.
of group, but.
But they were like even questioning whether to have a dinner or not,
Yeah, no, we are gonna do virtual, yeah.
It's gonna be virtual.
For the annual meeting,
Okay.
yeah,
Virtual dinner.
yeah.
I mean, I eat dinner every night.
It's gonna be really good.
And you have to go to a
Locale.
room, you have to go to a room without windows, we're gonna have a digital window on the.
Well, the food,
Should be on
at
there.
least the food will be better.
The-
Yeah, he was saying it's just like best it's break even, so to try to plan it and not know how many people are gonna show up.
Well, that was exactly it, was that, 4 people show up, we still have to pay a certain price anyway, and so no one's really going in. And plus, people which, I went to NCAR in Miami in August, which was the worst time to go to an event in
Yeah.
Miami. And I will tell you that the few COVID cases that came out of that were when we were sitting around eating meals. and masks
Just
together.
saying.
So we were hesitant with Western Mass to do an event in which we are essentially we're sitting around a table during a certain period of time, eating meals together.
I think the hard part is like, especially if people have gotten boosters, like,
Yeah.
if we're not gonna do it now, you're basically saying you're never gonna do it. 'cause
Right.
Nothing else is changing. I mean,
Yeah.
this is where we are,
No, agreed.
so. I'm holding back a little bit for my kids. It sounds like maybe next week we'll.
Exactly.
Then that's the sort of last
100%.
thing that's gonna happen.
I'm in the same boat with you. As soon as I can get my son vaccinated, I think things will shift.
Yeah, how old is your son?
He's 11.
Okay, I got 2 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like,
So worst case scenario, we wait till March, and it does feel like next week.
yeah. And they've been I mean, for a while they had like shot anxiety, they just didn't want a needle. There was like this looming needle in their future. They didn't know when it was coming. They thought they were gonna wake up one day and someone was gonna jump out and be like, yeah.
But 2 years later, it's,
No, now they're like ready for it. Now they're
Yeah,
excited.
yeah, it's very true. My son too, he really wants to be protected to some degree, wants to feel like there's another level of protection.
Yeah.
So we can just go to baseball games again.
Yeah. Well, my kids are way more like careful about masking. I mean, I'm vaccinated or not. So I
Yeah.
guess they should be, but
Yeah.
I'm amazed. Like I can't get them to take the mask off.
Yeah.
Even outside, they don't wear it.
Wow.
It's-
So I'm curious, boy and a girl or 2 girls?
2 girls.
2 girls, there you go. Girls are so much better. I have a son. I'm constantly asked about like, you can't go in the convenience store. Like,
Right.
constantly yelling, like, yes, for us, there's a lot of people right now.
Well, girls mature. I think he'll get a little more mature around 35, 36 years old.
Exactly.
He'll catch up.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm amazed. Yeah, it's a huge difference right now. Just the boys and the girls. in their
Yeah.
classes. The girls they're very into like rules and stuff.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Order.
Yeah, it does, it's like 5th or 6th grade, like maybe some of them, 4th or 6th grade, they really start to like, not only their personalities form, but they become.
Did he switch schools this year or? what's-
No, next year for him. So in our school, 6th to 7th and 8th, they actually are down at the high school, but they have their own wing in the building, but he's got next year.
Well, that's good. I felt bad for kids who had to switch to a new school.
Well, that's-
Come, in the middle of all
It's
this.
horrible. Yeah, or even like the 8th graders that then had to become freshmen, We have a person now, Robert's other business partner, his son actually does entire freshman year virtually.
Oh, really?
And so then we're back kind of this year. It was really hard. to get to school.
I should know, actually, because I've been getting so many of my friends like, hey, I want to do a little project, I want to do a little, we don't really do much residential work, and so if I did it, I could basically be like a hobby for me on my off hours or something, so.
Yeah, there's many of those.
It's my true test of like how good a friend I am to these people. But then like Garth yesterday was like, he's like, we can't take a project if it's less than a certain budget, because like, it's just so insane right now.
Yeah.
With just like all the little
But you're
dinky
right.
residential projects, you know, like-
Because it's people that are at home,
Yeah.
figuring out that their space doesn't work so much for them. When they're at home all the time, it's gone.
What complicates it even further is the really small project, like the contraction.
Yeah, yeah, that's the other
I mean, there are,
problem.
you know, so much more than people who sit down and swing a hammer. Pick it back up. And it's just so fun. I mean, it's one thing if I'm not getting compensated for nice people and a project,
But to deal with these
building it.
toxic personalities, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of worried actually about this CARES Act money, because like the amount of money they're gonna shove into every town in every state, everyone's gonna be like, great, let's do the project. So if I'm a plumber, I'm just like licking my chops right now. It's like my rate's gonna go up 5x, you know? like-
Well, that's, I mean, subs are insane straight out right now. You can't get a sub to show up on a job, but you're right, that gives them an opportunity to take advantage of it.
Sure, and there's no materials.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Any good ideas on how to get more tradespeople?
I'm actually working on a program
Yeah.
right now. It's called Pathways to the Trades.
Okay.
We started with construct, we're doing a construct in applications.
Somebody needs to take not the unions, but the brotherhoods or whatever they are, and just tell them, look, you know, you set up this thing to protect your job. You don't need to protect your job anymore. For God's sake, cut the internship in half and get these people licensed. It's just stupid. That's the
We're
law.
working with Monument,
We're gonna work.
with Monument Creative
Their
Construct.
internships are longer than an architectural internship.
We're in our third year.
We will give you some.
We've actually placed a couple of kids with electricians and plumbers and carpenters.
Yeah.
It's a hard road because most of the parents are so academically focused that you can't get kids into the trades. And they're way better paid.
I think it's a status thing. It's like, you might make the money, but then like, you're thinking like who your circle of friends is gonna be. It's like, what do electricians sit around talking about, and what do people working in trades sit around
People
talking
that I
about?
get to work with are the smartest people.
No, I know, I'm just saying the vision of what
Plumbers talk about. Electricians, you know, I can handle the
Oh, I
conversation.
know what plumbers.
My experience,
Exactly, exactly.
my experience, electricians are the coops. I don't know. Electricians are
I think the tapers are the coops.
Oh, yeah.
Tapers and painters.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
probably accurate.
No, it's the straight plumbers.
Well,
Out
it would be
there.
chemicals all day, you gotta.
Oh, yeah, they tell us, they let us know,
I
yeah.
heard that.
We hear that,
Yeah, we get that a lot.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they do, yes.
Yeah, I love it. It's like, why don't you know as much as me, someone who's been doing this for 25 years, just this trade? You should know as much as I do about it.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to know the plumbers, everything, detail, and I'm supposed to know
They
everything.
constantly, yeah, they constantly throw everything back here. Yeah. It's frustrating. We're just not on the job site.
Oh, I saw.
It's a very advanced system for video.
I was
It's
doing the
wild.
same thing.
Northampton, we just had like a really simple, like,
No, Northampton, I had to go to 2 hours before, pre-pandemic. We were always taped, and they did have some.
there was video, but it's just a single like camera thing. It's
Was
not,
it really? I felt like there
at
were
least in
3.
my experience. Oh, this, oh, no,
I felt like there were 3, but it was a little.
in that office building behind the car out there.
Where were we that day?
Oh, what time?
It was right out, it was. Yeah, it was the.
Yeah, behind City Hall, there's like a little office building out there. That's where our meetings are.
Where we met? Oh, okay.
What did you come for?
Plant site plan and, I think variance.
Recently or?
No, before the pandemic.
Oh, 2 years.
Yes, it's probably 2 or 3 years.
Okay, I've been in planning board for 2 years now.
Oh, so then it wasn't you, yeah, it was before you then.
Maybe it was right before I
It
came.
was Carolyn Day and I.
Carolyn
Carolyn Day, yeah.
Carolyn did. Well, she's the
Carolyn
staff.
Day. Yeah.
She's still there.
Well, we correspond with her a lot.
She's very good. She's very
Very organized.
organized, responsive, and
Yeah,
we basically don't see anything that's not approvable.
that she hasn't vetted, yeah.
Yeah, we don't see anything crazy, really.
Yeah.
She's very good.
No, we got everything we asked for. Of course, the project never ended up being built, but.
What project was it?
It was over on.
Indian restaurant.
There was a vegetarian. Vegan, it's a vegan restaurant. What's that street? It's right across from us. No, it was right in downtown Great Barrington. So what's the name?
Masonic.
Masonic Street. It's on Masonic Street. It used to be lawyer's office. And it was, you can sort of see it, so as you're going down the street, you're coming from sort of.
Oh, near the police station over there.
Yeah, well, it's sort of tucked back on the left, there were all these like before, all of a sudden, these houses that demolished and just built these crazy structures back there. And that's what it was. And it was a track of it. Being built there,
Right.
they were letting it.
We have a pretty good, I mean, I agree with it actually as an architect. Our philosophy is we want more housing.
Yeah.
And not
that's-
every house has
that's-
to be the most beautiful thing,
Well, you can tell, yeah.
you know, so,
But yeah, no, housing was the issue. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they listed that.
yeah.
Parking requirements were met that.
Yeah.
Parking lots, they were kind of a lot.
We were doing parking spaces.
I don't think there's.
Yeah, they-
I don't think there's a parking requirement down there. In that part of town. I think it's zero parking.
Oh, at the time it was.
Or maybe they
like,
changed it.
we had to
We
get like
need one per unit.
one per unit or something, and we sort of got it.
We just approved a 50 or 60 unit building on King Street. And they were providing parking, but there's zero parking required.
Right, but again, the fact that if you want to rent the apartment.
Yeah, it's the developer's prerogative to do that. And he was coming up with, I don't know, see what they actually build, but he came up with some crazy system where he was stacking
No.
cars in the first floor, like a, not an underground, but like a grade level
So you drive
garage.
in, there's like a lift.
It's an automated system where you drive in one place and the thing will like move your car around, and then if you want your car back, you press a button.
Oh my God.
They exist, but they're really expensive.
So you're.
Carvana for your own car.
So you're late for your meeting, you're late for a meeting, and you're like, my car system broke and I couldn't get my car.
Well, this is a,
The dog ate
My garage ain't my car.
Yeah, my dog ate my car.
yeah, it's a community for, I think maybe it's 55, 65 old, I can't remember exactly.
Oh, wow.
I think the idea is it's gonna be
I think
mostly
it works, I'm just gonna
retirement.
figure that out.
Yeah. By the time it gets built, those people, you know, they'll be millennials.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah. All right, I guess we should work out some delivery.
Yeah, it's really interesting to have older daughter and, yeah. Because Sarah went to school here. And, yeah. And she's very proud of it. Yeah.
It's tricky in a town like this, though, like, we're looking at this one building today, but like, there must be like 5 or 10 buildings like this. Yeah. It would be great to save and make into something. Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I was just talking to, you know, the First Congregational Church right on Park. And, it's back on the market.
The challenge with that particular structure is that it's got an MHC restriction. And unlike other buildings, MHC restrictions on churches are in interior.
Is that the one that used to be the sweater people, the Christians? It's the stone building or no?
Yeah, that's the church.
It's a church, but there was a, Chris Swindlehurst was there?
No, that's
That's a different church.
That's Notre Dame.
That's the old Catholic church.
That's already changed.
Oh, they got rid of that?
Well, now, personal hands, this church still belongs to the congregation.
Right, Chris Swindlehurst's wife had it, French, had it as a shop or something, a workshop or something, right? They still own that?
I think they do,
yeah, okay.
All right, so I'm just
I,
gonna go through
I
this
almost had
again.
Chris do my heating system, and he's like, I don't want to do this drive if you have problems later on. To Northampton.
So you need the-
So he put me in touch with someone else that was good.
So, I guess we'll
You can just
email,
email it to me.
yeah, I'll ask Lauren. to email it.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
And then David, same thing, I'm sure Lauren has your.
Oh, I have
number
the, I got the
somewhere.
Wi-Fi on right now, I can probably check it, I just don't have a phone or something.
I'm sure, because I'm sure Lauren has it somewhere.
That's fine, I'll find it, I'll find it.
I never signed it. Thank you. Never go anywhere without it. They asked me if I'm a member of, what do you call it, what's that crazy old people organization?
Oh, ARP.
Yeah, right. Oh, but
Even better.
AARP, right.
I already, like, I know it, I don't know. why.
No, when they send me stuff with postage papers on it, I wrap up bricks and tape it on there and send it back. This is an organization that asks me, my
I know
children.
that's create, and then I forget the rest. So I always look it up. That's good. I don't remember. So it's just, yeah, stuck there. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's fine. Well, my problem is too that anything I do online is already stored, like anytime I log into the AIA, it's already in there, so I never have to remember it. So then I do need to forget. Yeah, that's true. I do that.
I just remembered, I think I stored it as a note in my phone because of this exact problem.
I took a photo of mine years ago, it's buried now.
Married to her wife.
So I just pull it out of my wallet. I should. That was actually.
Aha, here it is.
Most AIA membership numbers are in numerical order. There are 100,000 architects between you and me.
Wait, what's yours? Wait, that's too long. Yours is, mine's, oh, maybe not. Mine's 3838, so now I can't do that.
Oh.
Because you would say the guy, your age.
No, 3 years.
Oh, still, that's
800,000.
If you're right, they do it that way.
Yeah, that's.
Wendy's 301. Are they really?
Yeah, mine's 388.
I remember it's 3838. So they're interesting. 800,000. They're not even 800. I was gonna say they're not even 800,000.
No, 300,000, right? So 3 is a million.
So where did you go? Yeah, you keep the same number. That's true. But still, you all right, well.
What's your AIA number, Bruce?
I am no longer an AIA member.
So what, so I'm just curious what spurred you to, because I was always part of the camp that was like, no, I'm just gonna be RA. I don't want to be
Well, when I left my 400-person firm, went on my.
Oh, because it was like stupid expensive, right?
Stupid
It is
expensive.
stupid expensive, the whole thing is too, I mean.
Well, I think a lot of it depends on what your local chapter does too. Some local chapters does not.
Where did you work when you were in the city?
I was a partner at Gensler.
Okay.
A lot of years.
All right.
Few too many years.
Yeah, what's his name? Joe, I met Maryland driving. He was
Oh, Brancato.
Joe Roncato, yeah, he's always hitting us up for like Maryland events and
Always,
stuff.
always.
Yeah, I just don't have as much school pride as he does.
All right.
My brother was a turf fan.
Oh, yeah.
We need some deliverables, because now
I
we're
went to grad school and I went back to grad school.
film us and present it. So we should figure out which one of us wants to sort of guide the discussion, we can
So
all
we should
jump
have
in.
3 plans and a narrative. And they're there are 5 of us, so one of us gets to sit back. One person should write a narrative, and each other should do a plan.
Well, so I think we should just go through.
I think we should have a site
concrete.
diagram. I think we
A
need
site
some,
diagram?
even just with some arrows, the main entrances, here's the street, just so people
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
locate themselves, you know?
What do you think in the office, I'm gonna close it, is that right? You don't have a site diagram?
It doesn't have to be this, we can just cover, we can trace it on this, you know?
Right, that's what I was thinking.
So, but what are some of the decisions? Concrete decisions as far as elevator location, what goes on each floor, where's the ramps, where's the entrances? So,
These are just sort of
Yeah, okay.
to some kind of a scale.
so verbally we can.
Small enough that we can actually use these
Well,
as a
verbally and.
Yeah, I think we should do 3 plans, although the basics didn't really work out, we can show where the elevator comes down and just general.
Yeah.
This is what's down here. You know,
Yeah.
public bathrooms, commercial kitchens.
Mechanical
So maybe
space.
that scale, and actually, we've got more there, just throw the large one over the side and decide that.
The large one, we're gonna do the large one.
I've got these
I don't think we need the big
ones,
one.
which might work for site plan. They're not to scale, well, they're
Well, no,
just
I thought we were just gonna trace,
Yeah.
trace at that scale.
yeah, just that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, oh, there's 12 toilets in this. But it's, the room is 32 feet long.
Oh, no.
It's still big, actually, you don't even need all that space.
All right, so who wants to do what? So we've got a site plan, 3 floor plans, and a narrative. I'll do whatever's left.
So floor plans, are we just doing, we're not getting into nitty gritty, like I'm actually looking at counters and stuff like that, we're really just kind of blocking out
Right, but you're
what goes where.
2-bedroom, 1-bedroom studio thing.
We're pretty similar, actually.
Well, I'm only coming up with essentially 6 units, whereas you are going with more
I'm
like
at
8.
8, yeah.
I think showing flexibility is good. You can, there's different layouts that
All
work, you
right, so
know?
we'll do 2
So
second floor
we'll each
plans.
do a second floor plan, okay.
Okay.
All right, who wants to do a narrative? Excellent, I'll do the narrative. All right, so we still need.
So
we
Wendy
still
and
need-
David.
Yeah, so we still need the site plan, a basement plan, and a first floor plan.
First floor plan.
Can the third floor be the same as the second?
Yeah,
There's
I
no
was,
third
I was
floor.
all
There's
over the
no
third
Yeah,
floor.
the third floor, right, let's, we'll do a third floor too.
You're in charge of the third
I'll
floor.
I'll do the roof plan, the roof
You're an
plan.
architect, you're doing the roof.
I
That
can do
drone
something
in
with the
the town.
basement, you know, as far as,
Do we have any 8.5 by 11, just like,
Plain paper.
plain paper?
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
that's fine.
all right, so we're, for the elevator, we're gonna use this scenario, right?
Yeah.
In
think so.
in that
Kind of
elevator
center
scenario,
of
I'm
classroom
sorry,
3.
the
So,
elevator
and we're
is-
all, we've all decided for our purposes, that the classroom 3 side of the building is west, correct? We're just, that's.
Yes,
gonna be our-
that's west, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So I should figure out, so our elevator is,
The elevator
Kind
should
of
be
right, sort of here.
I gotta flip this
right
over.
there.
If I had
It's
to-
along that
Yeah,
wall.
It's actually.
It's,
It's in line with the door.
No, it's in the middle of classroom 3, kind of.
It's in line
Put
with
that-
those stairs.
Put it over
like
there.
that.
All right.
It's about 21 feet wide.
Ah.
The whole, the whole thing is
That's a
about
little
21 feet
that's a
wide.
little different.
I think you've got it.
So,
You had it on either
I had
side,
it over
windows that are
here.
there, basically.
Yeah,
so
I
we're
have it
like
in one of those.
44. and 16, okay.
Now, let me see that.
16.
16.
Well, I'm going to the outside, I'm going to this line just so I can.
Oh,
sort of
okay.
locate it.
I think I missed what, am I doing the first floor or someone doing
I
the
guess
first
so,
floor?
first
You're
floor.
doing the first one.
Okay. Got it.
So, yeah, somewhere- All right. Can I steal that piece of paper again? The elevator one? Oh, I'll steal it when you're done. I'm gonna put it in here too. To make sure.
I think I did bring some dots and then once.
I have got some tape.
All right, just making sure I have.
We're doing north right.
North right,
North right or north?
David?
north left. Oh, I got it. I'm good.
North left? Which way are we doing this? North left or
North this way?
right?
North, oh, well,
Which way are we gonna
we
draw?
can.
North entrance at the
All of
bottom.
These other,
Turn it up 180.
all of these other ones are oriented with north to the right.
That's true.
So
So,
David is
to be
recommending we
consistent.
orient north to the left so that the main entrance or new entrance is at the bottom of the page.
And I'm just looking at all the other documentation which is done. north
Yeah, these
right.
are all the studies that were failures.
We're gonna make it
Let's
different
just
by
turn the
turning the
building
paper.
around.
It's the
On the
Beaux-Arts
plan.
rule.
So
is you
we're
have
gonna
the
go north,
entrance is on the bottom of the page.
So north is now on the left. Excellent, that's the way I was working. But, then
All right.
Wait, north is on the,
North is on the left, entrance on the bottom.
she said bottom. You said bottom.
left.
Left.
You said left.
I said left, yeah. So
Good.
The text on these is
So,
upside
all right,
down.
so now I get it.
Right. So the text is gonna be-
Where's that nice diagram?
We sure we want to confuse everybody by doing this.
I don't
Why
don't
we
agree with
confuse
it, but-
ourselves?
I think we may be on 2 to 3. I would prefer to keep it the way all the other drawings are oriented.
I would too.
I guess the question, how familiar are you all with these drawings?
Not-
I don't think, I think we've looked at these more than anyone.
First floor, I mean, is that the?
Any of the floor plans. I mean,
Yeah.
which direction is
I think
up
this is
and,
an all new thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
let's take ownership.
Wait, but is, then it's not oriented even the same way as the Google Maps?
Well, no, that would be north to the
That would
top.
be
Hey,
Why would
how
we
about
wanna
we
do
say,
that?
yeah, north is to the north is south.
Where's the site plan? You have it, right? So you say, for instance, someone goes to Google Maps and prints this, north is to the right.
Turn it side, no, it's not. You have it sideways.
Well, okay.
No, turn it 90 degrees.
No, because this is the,
That's correct. That's the way you have it now.
All right.
That's
well, I was
not-
showing it to you, not to me.
Because we talked about this so much.
Right, yeah, it's 90
I'm
degrees from what
saying
you
it,
would be.
like, this is
This
kind of
is
the
orientation.
orientation. It's the same as these words.
So that's 90
Okay.
degrees. Turn it 90 degrees.
They want to do it.
That's not, north is to the right, the way you're holding it.
Exactly, and so it is on these drawings.
But you would, that's not what you would see in Google Maps is what I mean. If you pulled in Google Maps, you would see it
So
90
it's
degrees
this one,
turned.
it's not what
Right, north
Oh,
is
you would.
always to the top in Google Maps.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
but
So
we're
And we
doing-
don't want to orient it
I-
that way.
Ah, okay.
printed landscape or portrait.
Landscape, yeah.
So who's doing the site plan?
Okay.
Are you doing the site plan?
Wendy.
Wendy? We
I'm not-
we just found
Oh.
the parking, the alternate parking layout for you.
Okay.
Do you have a printer?
So.
Okay.
Send it electronically.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, because there's more land than there is for the driveway.
No, you
The
didn't.
parking on the. Is this parking for the building or for the gazebo? Well, both, like, no, I mean this one right here.
It looks like it would be for the school because there's a fence to the.
All right.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so we're saying that north on this one is this way. David, did you grab a card?
Right.
So I make sure I put the north
Yes,
correct on that.
correct.
All right, just check.
That would be awesome. Yeah, that would be great.
Which diagram?
The diagram. Okay.
Yeah, I might need that too, because I don't actually have the windows in mine and stuff. so. On the side.
it's the east or west side that has the nice basement windows.
The what, east, facing the playground.
Yes.
So the same side as our entry.
No.
No, the entrance. on
No,
the side.
opposite.
We need utility plan. Is there any utilities there? Oh, we have. We know like where the water comes in.
Where
Oh,
what?
good point, where like the water main comes, do you guys have any idea of like where the utilities come in, electric, water?
So the electrical service hits this corner,
Okay,
and the water main. I'm not positive about the water main, but I'm pretty sure the shut-offs were in that little mechanical room that we saw at the bottom of the stairs.
on the street, that makes sense. Yeah.
It was,
Okay.
Right.
thank you very much.
Got awfully quiet in here.
Well, the apartment entrance is on the south side, right? The apartment stair entrance.
Yes.
Okay. So where the elevator entrance is going, there's a hatch there. Do we want to do a separate entrance to the basement?
Hatch where?
Um,
That's the opposite. Is it the opposite side? I flipped this around 3 times. I couldn't figure it out. I think it's the opposites.
The hatchways in the back parking lot area.
It is on the west side.
Yeah.
So we'd be up over it.
So
But you don't need
do we
that.
feel like we need, like if someone needs to deliver something to the basement?
Then they
By
should rent a
stairs.
different building.
No, yeah, you come in
Or
through
should
the
we try to
elevator.
get,
Yeah, you come in the front door
elevators.
and there's an elevator now.
If that helps.
Okay, great. So then, this is doing this now.
Right, that's better than a. I guess the question is,
So, yeah,
we
but
wouldn't put a
then-
new stair down there though in that location.
That hatch, I
So-
think, it was mostly to access the heating equipment, those giant old boilers and mechanical equipment in that area.
Right.
Right.
For that time.
So,
We covered it
because
over.
our lobby stairs don't go to the basement, so the
Right.
only stairs to the basement will be on either end. If
Exactly.
that's okay?
Yeah.
And we don't need to replace the hatch or build it somewhere else or anything.
No.
Okay.
Where's the actual elevator as far as doors? Do we know door configuration?
I think we
Yeah,
do
there's
front
my
back.
hallway.
We do front back this way.
There's gonna be two.
Okay, all right, perfect. That's actually
You know, what we could,
excellent.
those places where, when I was asking about the utilities on the east side where you have the playing fields, depending on what was going down there, you could look into, could you make a bigger area way and actually have direct access into that basement?
To what end?
Yeah, I don't know, it has to be for some specific use, you know.
I mean,
It's probably
again,
too
it's
expensive,
mostly public space. I mean, we don't even know if there's any commercial spaces down there.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's a potential, but it seems an awful lot of expense and site work.
Yeah,
Well, right now our stairs are wide enough to have one go down. and one
but there's
go
no
up, no?
benefit to it.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. This is the side you were talking about, right?
Yeah, no, I was saying the windows in the basement are over here.
Yeah.
Like, could you pull out an area way and get an access into the basement? If there was
Right,
any reason to, I don't think there's any.
Yeah.
Without any specific program, there's not. a need.
This must be very exciting for people
It's not on.
Oh.
No, yeah.
Zoom is the. Zoom.
There's five, or less.
The thing about this is, you don't really need to have videos, well, you are maybe somebody in the audience. Most meetings, you just gotta listen to. You don't really have to watch, so unless you want to know who's watching exactly. Don't listen, put it on, do your own stuff. Mr. Sherman.
Well, I haven't moved around, but still. So, when the four of you have a moment to break, I'd like to just read my narrative and get feedback before I present.
I can listen as well.
Evidently, you're the only one who can do it.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
No,
I just can't
that's
talk.
fine.
All right, so this is what I got. Try to keep it simple because each of you are presenting the specifics for the plan. So basement is support space for the first floor non-residential spaces. It's public space. It will require handicap access. There will be things like restrooms, commercial kitchen, commercial storage, possibly additional 1 or 2 commercial spaces on the east wall with the nice windows. First floor, non-residential, handicap access from outside with an elevator lobby and new main entrance on the west side in the middle of the building. Commercial space with lots of glass or additional lobby space opposite the entry. Second floor, residential, 6 or 7 or 8 units, separate dedicated stair access from the south side, handicap access from shared lobby elevator, emergency egress from the north stair. And that's all I got. And then the specifics and what it might look like will be for each of you. And then I actually did a little thing about finances, because I think that's important. We touched on it. So at an average of 7,000 square feet per floor, I reduced it a little bit, times 3 is 21,000 square feet, at an average of $200 per square foot is a better than $4 million renovation cost. So we're saying you've got to create a pro forma, calculate the generated income per month, reduce that by 15 to 25% to account for vacancy, maintenance, and taxes. And this equals the maximum debt service the building can support, plus a developer contribution. And the difference equals the amount of money the town will support through contributions and grants. And just as an example, if the developer were to invest $500,000 in the project and the debt is relieved in 20 years, and the building is worth $3 million in 20 years, which I think is reasonable, that will represent a 10% return on a $500,000 investment over 20 years. So I don't think it's out of the question to expect that whoever develops this building will make some sort of a contribution around $500,000.
Okay.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Narratives are always quicker than drawings.
tape?
Got tape for
Sure.
dots.
Okay.
Oh, there is tape. All right, cool. For an hour and a half. Just in the end, I'll put it all together.
Okay.
Some of it all sounds later. Thank you.
Yep.
That was a good job.
Got my whole bag. Sketch bag. Definitely guessing on the plumbing fixture, so. But the ladies are getting more than the men, because that's code now.
I was actually thinking, we don't need that many for the first floor alone.
I didn't put as many as are there, no.
No, I was thinking, could you even just get them all into where the boys' bathroom is? Is that big enough?
Not really, I don't think, I mean, like I said, I'm guessing, but
Like you still need a men's on that side and a women's on the other side?
yeah, I am putting them in the same locations for simplicity's sake, but.
'Cause I wouldn't be, I mean, could you do like the whole first floor? Do you need more than 6 bathrooms? 6, like 3 men's, 3 women's? That seems
I
like plenty.
do 4 men's, well, 3 plus.
Oh, but you can't even get to that
Accessible.
back. You can't get to that back one. Oh, you could, well, who knows? It's all. Right, plus the accessible.
Yeah. We don't know what the uses are either, so.
Well, I would just assume like a business use in the first floor, right?
Right, but it could be, some kind of instructional training or classroom or something. You want more?
The rain we're here.
Yeah.
Oh. Gray pen. The pen, it's a black pen, but it's a gray color. That
This,
one. Can I try that?
yeah. There's a box of them someplace.
Oh. Oh. Great.
I have to keep it.
Some of these I find like look great on bond, and then you put them on trace and they won't, you can't get a line, yeah. Even I said. More of a felt tip.
I'll draw a lot nicer than I do.
I was gonna say the same thing to you.
Yeah, but you should see my little asterisks.
His handwriting is fantastic.
Is it?
It's
I'm
beautiful.
really good at an asterisk.
Watch your mouth, please.
Oops. I'm writing upside down. I flipped it around to draw, and I started labeling it upside down. I was gonna label at the end and I forgot.
Who's that?
Mhm. Close enough. She did 7 years after CDs. Here's based on oh, studio.
I used this for 2 bedroom.
So all mine are 2 bedroom. But I guess maybe I'll just use this.
I got highlighters that are a little.
Oh, cool. All right, I'll start with that.
starting with more and more. of the
Getting any prizes for these drawings, for sure. For fees. Ooh, color. That's our commercial for color. That's great. Hey, this is a Saturday. I'm not dealing with my kids.
Oh, gosh.
Wait, are we on camera?
Yeah. Let's just, Thank you. Well, I am only gonna keep rolling up. You all set?
All right, all you guys are welcome. I added an overview, because we did actually make an initial decision, which everything else is based on. So the overview is we accepted the program with mixed use residential, non-residential. And that without even needing to know what the non-residential use is, we've established some parameters. The residential use should be on the second floor only. The non-residential use should be on the first floor. And the basement should be public space, and it will be non-residential support space. First floor must be accessible. The basement must be accessible if it is to contain public spaces, which will require a two-stop elevator. An elevator to the basement allows for things like public restrooms, community commercial space, community commercial kitchen space, and additional commercial spaces. So the second floor residential units do not need to be accessible. The incremental cost of a three-stop versus a two-stop elevator to get the convenience for the tenants is worth it. So that's sort of where we started.
Nice.
Good.
Bruce, did you did the third floor? Oh, yours is separated into color by units.
Yeah,
Okay, I was considering doing commercial versus. Although it's fairly obvious what's bathrooms. Commercial kitchen and the.
yeah, it's hard to tell where the apartment's starting. And
Oh, they wouldn't put the mailbox on the second floor, I guess, right?
there's no mail delivery.
There's no mail delivery.
Go to the post office.
Wow,
There's still some towns like that.
really? I didn't realize.
Many of them around.
Not many, but a few.
Is all Great Barrington like that?
No,
No, just.
Just Housatonic.
The
Well, within a
center
mile,
portion of
right?
Housatonic's like it, so I live basically about 150 feet away from the Housatonic school, and I go to the post office.
Mhm.
About another 100 yards down the road, the mail delivery starts.
Oh, okay.
but if you live in Odomont,
Right, and if you were better friends with your neighbor, you could have your mail delivered there.
Yeah, that's right.
Stockbridge, the whole town of Stockbridge.
Odomont,
Hmm.
no delivery,
Wow.
nothing.
I think it's symmetrically on the page. I got it.
Okay.
I'm all askew. I'm gonna have to redraw it.
Did you get it on the page though?
Most of it. That's what I'm
As
testing
long
right
as you
now.
didn't draw it on the table.
Right.
Scan the table.
So, my recommendation would be that the ground floor be presented first, basement second, and then the two second floor. last.
So we'll just go, just as far as our agenda works, we're gonna come out of the working design charrette and into the presentation when you guys are ready.
Yep, probably what, 5 more minutes? You guys-
Sounds good.
I'm ready.
I'm all set. All
Hooray.
right,
All right.
we're ready.
So yeah, we'll move into item number 3, which is design presentation.
So whoever is gonna be giving overview has to go up to that chair.
All right, I'll wait till I'm called up. but I will.
Excellent.
How would we like to start?
So I have an overview, a little narrative,
Great.
and then David's gonna present the ground floor, and then Wendy's gonna present the lower floor, and then Bruce and Carrie are each gonna present a possible second floor.
Fantastic.
So should I come up? and
Please do.
the narrative?
When you do, I'm gonna put this on you.
I take my mask off for.
Yes.
reading this.
We allowed to stand or do we have to sit?
My brother stand.
Oh, we
Yeah,
can
brother
stand.
stand, yeah.
We could stand.
Did we end up with the site plan?
And I think each of us
Oh,
should
no.
introduce ourselves briefly like we did at the very beginning.
No one did this.
My name is Robert Harrison. I'm a principal architect with Berkshire Design and Bradley Architects in Pittsfield. And I'm going to give you a little overview, a narrative, as it were, to how we arrived at the presentation that you are going to receive from the other architects at the table. So we went through quite a bit of discussion. We heard a lot of what other work has been done before us. And we decided to accept as our program what the building will be filled with as a mixed-use residential and non-residential. Without needing to know what exactly the non-residential component is, we were still able to establish some of the parameters that we used as a basis for all the design work. First, the residential use will be on the second floor only. The non-residential use, whatever it is, will be on the first floor. And the basement will also be public space, non-residential, and it'll mostly be the non-residential support space. The first floor has to be accessible. The basement if it's gonna have public spaces, must also contain an accessibility access, which would require a two-stop elevator. And this elevator to the basement is what would allow for public spaces like maybe the restrooms, community commercial kitchen, maybe even additional commercial spaces. All that would be available to the development. Even though the second floor residential units do not need to be accessible, the incremental cost of a three-stop elevator versus a two-stop elevator is not that much. And the benefit of the convenience for the tenants who would be the residential occupants of the building, we feel it would be worth it. So in the basement, as I said, there'll be support space for the first floor non-residential spaces. It will be public space. It will require handicap access. There will be things like restrooms, community kitchen, community storage, commercial storage, possibly additional one or two commercial spaces. We think probably along the east wall, which has very nice windows. And of course, there'll be the mechanical spaces down there. On the first floor, it will be non-residential. It will have handicap access from the outside with an elevator lobby. We're recommending locating that on the new main entrance on the west side of the building, in the middle of the building. Commercial space with lots of glass or maybe even additional lobby space will be opposite that new entry. On the second floor, there'll be residential units. It'll be either 6 or 7 or a maximum of 8 units up there. There'll be a separate dedicated stair access from the south side of the building, the existing stair. There'll be handicap access from the shared lobby elevator. And there'll be emergency egress from the existing north stair. And then we did touch briefly on finances. So we think that this is approximately a 7,000 square foot footprint, 3 floors, 21,000 square feet, and about $200 per square foot. We're looking at over $4 million investment for the project. We're recommending that somebody create a pro forma, calculate what the development spaces will generate monthly, reduce that by 15 to 25% to account for vacancy, maintenance, taxes. And this will equal the maximum debt service the building can support, plus developer contribution. The difference between that total and the 4 million plus equals the amount of money the town must support through contributions and grants. And again, if a developer were to invest $500,000 in this project and the debt is relieved in 20 years and the building after 20 years is worth $3 million, that would represent about a 10% return on the developer's investment. So it's not unreasonable to assume that the developer will be required to put some money into the project. And that's all I got.
Thank you.
So
right.
I think the ground floor, David, you're
How
up.
do we do this? Can you just
You can
point it
pull
at
it up.
this? I don't know if what you'll be able to see exactly.
Yeah.
Wait, which one? Wendy, are you the, from doing this or ground floor?
Basement after ground.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think. Can I get closer so you actually can see that? I don't know how that works.
Don't worry about that. Just do.
All right. All right, so we looked at putting the entrance from the west side of the building, from where the existing parking lot is.
Can I get you to introduce yourself?
Yes, you
Thank
can.
you.
Thanks for reminding me. I'm David Whitehill with Clement Hallsman Architects and live in Northampton. So we talked about the west side of the building, the broad, long flank of the building that faces the parking to the west, being a nice place to make a nice, gracious public entry to the, especially for the non-residential first floor spaces. So the nice thing about this building is that it's pretty split up into modules, and it's just these 6 classrooms on each floor. So we thought about taking the central classroom out of the west side and making that into an entry lobby where you could come in, you could come into an elevator that would take you from sidewalk level up to the first floor level. So that would be the main entrance and accessible entrance with some stairs to the side into a nice big shared lobby. And then for the 5 classrooms that are left over, I just looked at different layouts for different, since we don't know exactly what the program would be, but just look at what the capacity is for each of those spaces to fit different types of use. So we looked at art studio, a training room like the one we're in now, office space, or some kind of art gallery, public space. The nice thing about these two other spaces on the west side is that they have existing doors. They're not accessible, but they could have access directly to that parking also. So something that's a little more kind of a retail type of, not retail, but sort of more public facing retail style program would make sense there. And then we have the two existing stairs. So one of those could lead up to the residential units, and one of them could be used by the commercial to get down to the storage and kitchen downstairs. And then egress could be through both of them from the for all floors.
Right.
That's it.
Can I ask what kind of storage in the basement, like?
I should, oh, my glasses.
Oh, you need them? I'll get
Yeah,
them. I'll get
grab
them.
them.
Where are they? No, they're.
You need your glasses.
Upside down. So I'm Wendy Brown, I'm an architect in Dalton. I worked on drawing up the ideas for the basement floor, which, as mentioned, were for the restrooms. So there's the men's and women's restroom on the basement level. The elevator shown on the other plan comes down around about here near the existing mechanical room. And so I have an elevator machine room and the bathrooms. The other request was for a commercial kitchen, which we were thinking would be appropriately located in the basement. So as not to take up some of the more retail spaces. So what I did without knowing, knowing what other options there would be was to just kind of calculate leave the other areas kind of blank and calculate what the square footages would be. Of course, there could be a wall here to divide these spaces up. This one's probably big enough for a makerspace for somebody, or studio or small office space. And this one's smaller, maybe the tenants could have a little bit of storage. So there's commercial kitchen and freezer and refrigeration storage there. There's two stairs stay, and those are the access besides the elevator.
Bruce Moore, I'm principal architect at Red House Design in Great Barrington. One of the second floor plans, which is all residential that we developed, targets smaller families, primarily 2-bedroom apartments. It's a total of 8 apartments on this floor, 4 of which are 2 bedrooms, 3 of which are 1 bedroom, and 1 is a studio apartment. Similar to what was discussed on the other floors, there is elevator access up here that would provide for handicap access as needed. On the Pleasant Street side is the primary stair access up to this level. And then the north end of the building has a secondary egress stair. All of the apartments have at least a kitchen and a bathroom and either 2 or 1 bedroom. That's it.
Thank you.
Trying to hide. I'm Carrie Bartini. I'm a principal architect at Berkshire Design in Pittsfield. So there's not much new material here. We've got the stairs, we've got the main hallway. So as Bruce had mentioned, primarily what seems to be in demand are 2-bedroom units. So I was trying to create, using the existing walls of the 3rd floor, using the existing classrooms, can we get 2-bedroom living units in this, the floor plate? So 90% of the units use exactly the existing walls and footprint that are there, keeping the main hallway relatively open. One unit, we do need to steal some space from that existing hall, but we can sort of keep that nice and open. So whether it's artwork or community postings or just neighbors being able to congregate and hang out and talk to one another, that is still, that opportunity is still there. So there can be 6 2-bedroom units in each of the classrooms, essentially going, within or without some of the units or some of the classrooms. But essentially, yes, the answer is that we can get 6 2-bedroom units using the existing classrooms and wall system that's in place on the 3rd floor. I'm also a 3rd grader. No, I'm kidding. School. Safe place to put this. Okay.
All right, so we'll move into committee discussion. I just want to start off by saying thank you. That is the first charrette I've ever experienced, and it was fun to watch and exciting. It was nice to hear you guys breaking down the numbers and realistic layouts of the place. And I want to thank you all for participating. And I'm excited about what you've laid out. And ready to look at it deeper and discuss it in our future meetings. Anybody else on the committee, anything to say?
Just thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, and thank you for the fantastic lunch too.
And yes, I should say thank you to Pleasant, Maine. Craig helped us out with this, presented us with this great spread of finger sandwiches, and great guy. So, all right. So then, if we're done with committee discussions, I'll move it into citizen speak. We do have a few participants via Zoom. If anybody wants to speak via Zoom, if you just raise your hand and I will do my best to promote you.
If you get any takers, can you put the big screen on again?
Yes. So I'm gonna know Patrick Conlon.
Am I still muted? Or is that open?
You're all set.
Great. I just want to say thank you to everybody, the committee and our guests today. Very, very, very interesting, very informative. And it's just, it puts us one step closer to reality. And I think we're indebted to you for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Pat. So, anyone else? If not, we'll move into media time. I could see some media earlier, but I'm not sure if I see any now. But if there's anybody on the media, just raise your hand. Not seeing anybody, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Second. Roll call vote. Angela?
Aye.
Daniel? Patrick?
Aye.
Bud?
Aye.
And I as well. So we will adjourn this meeting at 1:56. And again, thank you, everybody, for attending.
Wow, right on schedule.
Unbelievable.
That clock's off up there.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I didn't just notice it
You'd
now.
think it'd be surprising that